Here are over 2 hours of t-shirt design tutorials that I've done over the years. I hope you enjoy. First thing I did was found a picture of a dove for this design because that is the central part of the design. And then I imported it into Photoshop by copying and pasting it. And we're going to say bye to that other dove. It wasn't a very good one to use, but I'm going to use the polygonal lasso tool to cut this out real quick. And you guys are probably asking yourself, why don't you use the pen tool or Adobe's AI to just cut out the background? You can do that too. It's up to you. Everybody has their own way of doing things. I just like this way. Next, I'm using the camera raw filter. You can find that on the very top under filter. And this is an awesome tool because it works just like Lightroom. I can create some really nice contrast, change the colors of my image if I need to. It's a good idea to add this as a smart object to your image though. That way you can work non-destructively, and if you want to delete it later, you can easily do that. Next, I just want to make a quick circle or an ellipse, whatever you want to call it, and we're going to use the type tool to type on the path of the ellipse. With that, we can create a nice arc on the text, and it just looks really clean. And then I'm just going to quickly choose a font. I believe I've been using this font called Grotesque for a while now, and it's just a really clean font, and I think it works with this street style. Now I'm just going to use the handles on this path to maneuver the text around it so I can get it centered. And I'm just going to quickly type something out. I'm kind of just making stuff up as I go on this one. I never really have a plan for what kind of text I want to add to a design when I film these episodes. I just kind of come up with something on the spot. So forgive me if they're kind of cheesy. Now I'm just changing the color of the type and adding some different effects. Now if you go to the effects panel, there's a bunch of different things you can do. You can add bevels, strokes, gradients, the list goes on. Have fun with it, guys, because obviously what I'm doing might not work for your design. Now, I don't think I ended up going with this final style that you're seeing right here. I ended up changing it later on, but again, I'm one of those designers that I experiment a lot, so sometimes things work for me and sometimes they don't. So you're gonna see a lot of that in this video, but that's just normal, that's my workflow. Next, I went to the site that I always use and I pay for a subscription on this site, and I wanted to find some barbed wire or something to use with the dove, and I found this really awesome barbed wire shaped as a heart, and I had to use that, so I actually downloaded it and imported that into Photoshop. This file was a vector file, so I ended up importing the EPS file, and this is really easy because it's already transparent for me. All I really have to do is mess with the colors of it. So another thing you can do is if you download, like, let's say an AI file, just open it up in Illustrator real quick, copy it from its background. Basically just get rid of the background out of that file and then copy and paste it into Photoshop, or you can click and drag it into Photoshop, whatever works for you. But now I have my heart-shaped barbed wire, and man, it looks pretty cool, but it needs a lot of work. I didn't want my design to look so flat, so my goal was to make this stand out more. So in order to do that, I needed to apply some effects to the barbed wire. And you guys see me using these effects all the time under filter and filter gallery. I'm always adding a torn edge effect and grain, sometimes a stamp effect to give it this gritty look. And I love this so much. In all of my tutorials that I go over, I usually use this effect. So it's a very common thing for me to use. I just love it. So once I was done playing with this, I ended up having to figure out how to make it intertwine with the dove. From here, I changed the text color to red because I think it pops really nice against the white dove. And the barbed wire was cool and all, but it's kind of a silver color. Well, I turned it to white, and it just conflicts with the white dove. Obviously, you don't want white on white unless you have a really strong drop shadow or something, but I don't like that. So I changed it to red. And as you can see, I'm just messing with the different options here. And once I figured out the right color for the barbed wire, I moved on to basically just make it look like it's intertwining with the dove. In order to do that, you just have to duplicate the layer a bunch and mask out certain parts of it. And I'm going to let you guys enjoy this little part. Remember, layers work in order, so whatever's on top is going to be on top, right? So I have one of the barbed wires under the dove, and I duplicated it and put one above it, and then I added a layer mask, and I'm just masking out the parts I don't want to be in front of the dove. Simple as that. You can use a hard brush for this. You don't need a soft brush, honestly, because you don't want any soft gradients happening. You want it to be a precise cut, if that makes sense. And now it's time to mess with the text even further and start making some minor adjustments to it just to make it fit better. I ended up actually just getting rid of this and changing the format altogether, but I'm just gonna let you guys see the entire process. But for the most part, I just thought it was kind of lacking on top there. So I ended up making it so much larger just to fill up some more space above the dove's wings. I ended up changing the entire format of the text, as you can see, and hiding the heart now because I'm trying to rework the design. It wasn't working out for me. So I ended up actually adding an outer glow to the dove to give it this drop shadow, almost just some shadow to make it look like it's in front of Urban Cult. And then once I added that drop shadow, I made a duplicate copy, converted it to a smart object, and dragged it above everything. And this way I have full control over what's in front of the dove and what's behind the dove, if that makes sense. So I'm masking out some parts of the wing to reveal the Urban Cult name. And from here, I do need to add a drop shadow or an outer glow to Urban Cult to make it stand out. Now it's time to add that barbed wire back and kind of place it where I think it will look good. And this is strategy right here, because sometimes, you know, you can cover up certain letters that you don't want to cover up. So you do have to kind of plan it a little bit and figure out what, you know, what you could sacrifice, I guess you can say, because there is sacrifice that has to be made in order to make this design work. So, you know, it's a matter of, am I going to cover up the U, the R, the B, the C? What am I going to cover up, you know? So to give the barbed wire some color, I added a hue and saturation layer or adjustment layer and made sure colorize was checked. And I just basically picked this reddish color and I just clipped it to the heart layer to make sure it's only affecting that layer. Now it's time to make that barbed wire kind of intertwine with everything. And in order to do that, we're gonna have to duplicate it, send it behind certain elements or certain layers, and add a layer mask to certain layers. That way I can just mask out what I don't want to see. And this is where sacrifice comes into play, because I have to figure out what I want to show and what I don't want to show. And if I hide certain parts of the text, it might be hard to read. You want it to be legible, so just be careful when doing this. Now it's time to add some finishing touches. So I hit T on my keyboard. I'm gonna start typing out New York City, and I'm just gonna really just mess around with some different styles because I don't wanna just type out New York City and call it done. So I ended up actually using a rectangle, kind of going through New York City to make it look like it's crossed out. And then right here, I'm just taking that line that I used to cross out New York City, I'm duplicating it, creating a black version of it, so a version that blends in with my dark background, and then I'm just basically offsetting it so it creates this little stroke border, if that makes sense. And it just looks really cool. It looks like it's actually cutting through New York City. Really, really like that. But once you do that, this is what you get. And then I changed the color to this red color just to match the heart-shaped barbed wire. And we're pretty much done with the design. From here, we can add our textures and mock it up, make some small adjustments. As you can see right here, I'm changing the font color again. Urban Coal, I felt like it needed to be a little bit more yellow, so we went with that. But that's it. And I don't know what else to say. Like, this is what it takes to make a t-shirt design, and there's so many different ways to do it. So experiment, have fun. That's the most. Found a few images on unsplash.com. The first one is this rose, and the second one is these red flames. Obviously flames are red. I don't know why they named it red flames, but you know, it's fine. Here's the red flames, and we're going to composite these images in order to make something pretty unique. So the first thing we need to do is obviously save this image, which I have already done, and then we're going to use something new today to cut the image out of the background to save some time. This company reached out to me and I thought they were really cool. It's called ClickMagic. It's spelled ClickMagic. I will also link that in the description below. Basically, you upload the image and it literally just deletes the background like magic, just like that. It's super quick, does it in less than like 30 seconds. I believe you can create a free account if you want to. Adobe Sensei isn't perfect yet. This thing is actually better. So whatever they're using, Adobe needs to buy it off of them. But anyway, First off, before we import the image, I have a document that is 14 inches by 18 inches, 300 resolution, and then everything else you can just keep the same, hit OK. I'm dragging my image into Photoshop, which is right here. What I want to do is just kind of center it. I guess it's centered down there, that's fine. And then we also need to import our flame. So let's go ahead and go back to unsplash.com. I'm just going to right click on this flame image, copy it, and let's just Command V in Photoshop to paste it. And then we can resize, you know, to whatever we want. Now that we have the flames, let's go ahead and rename layer 1 flames. And then download 17, let's name that rose so we know where everything is. And then the flames, let's change the blend mode. By changing this to a screen blend mode, it's going to get rid of the darker tones of the image and blend them, which is what we want. And then from here, we can just kind of resize the flames and then zoom in. Don't be scared to zoom in, guys. And we need to kind of figure out where we want these flames to sit. I kind of want the leaves to be in front of the flame. So what I want to do is actually add a layer mask. Let's go to a soft round brush and then make sure black is selected in the foreground. And yeah, that's about it. And then we could start kind of painting in. But if you could see, my flow is at 100%. That's fine for now. You might need to lower that depending on the situation. But I think for this, it's going to be fine. But yeah, no, let's just kind of go with it, right? I actually want to get rid of this right side. I don't really want that, but you guys get it, right? So we're going to get rid of it on this leaf right here. I don't want that to interrupt it. We can even delete it right here as well. I don't mind if it's on this other leaf maybe. Yeah, you know what? I don't mind the flames being on this leaf or stem. I don't know what to call it. You guys know what I mean though, right? I'm just saying things right now. But no, this looks fine. I actually really dig this. The only thing is like I can't really see the rose at all right here in the middle, and I think that's gonna pose a problem. So I might wanna take a soft brush again with black and just kind of start painting. Again, we are going to make this black and white, so I'm not too concerned about the colors right now. But I do kind of like that it looks like it's kind of like in the rose, like the flames are coming out of the rose. I think that looks super cool. So maybe we're gonna roll with that and see what happens. Maybe just the top right here on fire. This is probably gonna sound bad, but I like purposefully making things look like shit. I just feel like it's like the new way of designing. Less is more most of the time. I'm not saying to like not care about design, but sometimes you can make some mistake and it's just like the best mistake in the world, you know? So I try not to take things too serious these days and just like try to have a really, really good time with it. But yeah, no, I think I made sense, right? As you can see, I'm just kind of like randomly placing these flames, like trying my hardest not to try. What I want to do is duplicate this flame now that we have the layer mask on it and drag it down. And as you can see, we see some problems right here. We can fix them pretty easy. So yeah, clean it up before you move on to the next thing, right? But it's fine for now. I mean, I just wanted to mention that just so you guys understand. But I want to add something to this side as well. So basically we're just duplicating the flames one more time, and I'm gonna mask in some parts, certain parts. Just like this. And again, nothing has to be perfect because I am going to add a threshold effect and we're just going to make this look super shitty on purpose. But no, this looks cool. I dig it. So what I want to do is first group everything together that we just did so far, right? So Command G, and we're going to name this Rose on Fire. All right. So now we have the rose on fire, and the reason why we're grouping this is because I'm going to duplicate the group and I'm going to have a backup group in case I mess up on something, right? So let's go ahead and just duplicate the group real quick, just like that. And we're going to flatten this, okay? Now we want to desaturate this, so do Shift Command U, and I don't know what that is on a PC, I apologize, but what this does is it desaturates the image. It takes away all the color, and then hit D on your keyboard, and what that's going to do is it's going to flip your background and foreground color. So if it's, let's say black is your background, if you hit D, black is going to change to your foreground, and then white's going to be your background. Hope that makes sense. From here, what we could do is go up to Filter, Filter Gallery. Before we move on, what I want to do is do Command A. We're going to Shift Command C. That's going to copy merged. It's going to copy the entire artboard. Now do Shift Command V, and that's going to paste it as one, basically one flat image with the background. And that's very, very important because this next part kind of needs that. So now go up to Filter, go to Filter Gallery, and we're going to apply an effect. And the two effects that I'm using, or the two filters I should say that I'm using, are torn edges and grain. So you can add those by clicking the little plus icon, and you just find them under sketch, and that's pretty much it. So I already have mine, so I can delete that one. We don't need halftone pattern. And then from here, we just need to adjust the parameters in order to bring out some details in this image, because right now you can't see shit, which is no bueno. Bringing out some details, we can lower this too. And as you can see so much more details now. Yeah, this is looking pretty good actually. That was okay, but I didn't like the level of detail. So what I want to do is do Command J to duplicate this group, and then I'm going to merge this, and we're going to go to camera raw filter, and I'm just going to adjust some parameters real quick because I didn't like again the level of detail. So I'm going to try to bring out some detail in this design, and hopefully it can salvage this, because again I just did not like that at all. Something about it just was off to me. So let's bring some clarity in the picture and some texture, like desaturating the rows a little bit. We could go ham if we wanted to, but I think this looks pretty good. Hit okay. And I'm thinking I might try to combine some color with this, but I don't know what we can call this, grain copy, whatever we want to call it. Now we can basically take our filtered version, and we have two filtered versions in case I didn't like one of them, right? So I just made two different versions. Don't let that confuse you. I was experimenting is what I was doing. And now we have the rose color copy, which is basically a desaturated copy. And now we could just kind of change the blend mode, and we can add some color back into this design, which actually kind of looks cool. We'll stick with the color for now because I kind of dig it. The next thing I want to do is add some text behind it. I want to type in sacred in the background, and I'm using a font called Tshirt that I found on Envato Elements. And I think what I want to do is separate sack. So on top I'm going to do sack, and on the bottom I'm going to do red, just like that. And we're going to make this pretty big. And then I group these together, lower the fill all the way to 0, and we're going to add a stroke to this like so. And we can make it the same color. And then what I want to do is duplicate this layer with the text, and we can name this text copy, and then this group text. What I'm gonna do is merge this group together, and it's probably gonna disappear in a second, that's fine. And let's just like re-add that stroke, that's fine. If I add a layer mask right now with the stroke applied to this layer, here's what happens. If I try to mask anything out, it doesn't look good, right? So right click on the layer and just rasterize layer style, and then add a layer mask. And then from here, I wanna use a soft round brush with dissolve, and we're just going to delete certain parts out of this text, just like that. So it's gonna go behind pretty much everything. I know it reads sack red, but you know what? I don't care. I like it. It is what it is. And then from here, let's go ahead and try to find some symbols for the top. I found a few symbols that I'm gonna use, and I'm just going to simply drag them in at the bottom left. We're just adding a little bit more to this design is what we're doing. Shout out to Danny if he's watching this, because he's my old boss at Merch Connection, and he would always get mad at me for adding dates on everything. So this is for you, buddy. All right, guys, I brain farted straight up. I'm just gonna type in life is sacred, because I literally don't know what to put now. It's not bad. It's not bad at all. All right, let's go and mock this bad boy up. Ooh, hoo, hoo, hoo. All right, this pops, guys. This pops off. That looks sick. That is how you can make a streetwear style design in Photoshop. Step one is prep work, and this is the most boring part of the design process. It's the most tedious part as well. This part consists of a bunch of different things, guys. Cutting out images from the background if needed, finding the right fonts, figuring out colors and all that good stuff. This part I go over in every single video, so I'm not going to go over it again. It's just very repetitive, and a lot of you should probably know how to do this by now, but I wanted to include it because it's still important. And yeah, so I found this Cobra. I'm cutting it out of the background, preparing it so I can start, you know, adding to it and really building my design up. I will tell you this though, use the tools that you find easier to use. I mean, if you like the eraser tool, use it. If you like the pen tool, use it. If you like the lasso tool, then why not use it? There's even the remove background AI with Adobe Sensei that you could try. Sometimes that works really good. But again, at the end of the day, as long as you achieve the same results, that's all that matters. So that's my one tip for you guys in this section. One thing you might see a lot of the Merch Design Academy instructors do is use something called threshold to process our images. This effect gives you a print and copy style effect, which is really awesome in my opinion, and it's really easy to accomplish. Basically, you just apply a threshold above your image and you can mess with the level and get the desired look that you want. I like to think of threshold as a way of separating the midtones from the highlights or even the shadows. So right now I'm focusing on more of the midtones, and then after that I'm going to focus on the highlights and then add color overlays to those separate tones to create something that looks like this. I applied the same exact threshold effect to the flames behind the Cobra. I really liked the way it looked, so I kept it. The client requested green flames, so I added the green color to these flames. It was simple as adding a color overlay, and then I also applied an outer glow, which ended up looking really nice, and you guys can see the results right here. The outer glow brought the whole design into a different dimension, which I really liked. The client wanted the Cobra to blend into the flames and almost look like it's fading into the flames. And to achieve that, I just used a few layer masks and a dissolve brush, and voila, I had the results I was looking for. I didn't like the color of the snake either, so I ended up changing it to more of a classic purple and green look, and I ended up really loving it. In step 4, I experiment a lot, meaning I try things that don't always work, and that's okay. Right here, I'm trying some chrome text, different fonts out, and ultimately I had landed on nothing at first. Like, it just wasn't working out for me. But overall, it was a lot of trial and error, and I recommend you guys try things. Even if you have to do something over and over again until you get it right, totally fine, and it's part of the process. As I was trying to find different fonts that fit this design, I noticed that the Cobra didn't have a tongue, so I just quickly made one with the lasso tool. I finally got to a point where I was happy with the text, so I stuck with this chrome look, and the client really likes it, so everybody's happy. And now it's time to add the final touches to the design, which means sometimes fixing things, adding things, and I added a different version of the design at the end, which was just a thresholded version. I basically took the entire design and added a threshold effect over everything, and it ended up looking really cool and is one of my favorite versions. But ultimately, this is what you have to do to finalize it, and sometimes it takes a long time, sometimes it's really fast. Right here, I'm just going to include a little time lapse so you guys can watch me make these adjustments, but at the end, we're going to mock up the final design. Now it's time to mock up the design, and this is my favorite part of the design process because you get to see your work on a physical product to get kind of a glimpse of what it's going to look like printed. And there are times where I mock up a design and I'm not happy with it, so I have to go back and make changes. At the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, will you wear this? And if you say no to that, then there's a problem there, obviously, so make changes. But overall, that's just the whole process, guys, and it's part of it. I'm in Photoshop with a 14-inch by 18-inch document at 300 resolution. I'm now importing all of my assets to make this awesome Darth Vader t-shirt design. First things first, I have to remove Darth Vader from his background. Let's get it. Using the latest version of Photoshop, you will see select subject, which is what I used to isolate Darth Vader, cut him out of his background. I made some small adjustments on his layer mask and I am left with a beautiful selection. The layer that Darth Vader's on is a smart object. Now anytime I make adjustments, it will basically clip to his layer, and if I need to make any adjustments later on, I can do that without working destructively, which is awesome. So now I'm just adding a hue and saturation adjustment, desaturating him, and then I'm going to mess with some curves and levels to add some contrast to him and bring out different tones like the highlights, which is something that I really like to do, especially working on a dark background. When I'm designing merch, I really like to layer my designs to build more complex designs, right? Obviously, I don't want to just use Darth Vader and then just call it a day, right? I want to add different things to it in order to make it my own and make it so much more unique. So I'm adding some different elements, as you can see. This one didn't end up working out though, so I ended up getting rid of it, but you will see one that does work out in a second. Yo, I found these really cool clouds. I'm going to add that behind Darth Vader, and I think this is going to work way better than that storm did. Let's try it out. And as always, guys, I am adding a hue and saturation adjustment, desaturating those clouds, and messing with my levels in order to bring out some of the darks to blend with my background. My background's black, which is going to be my shirt, so I want those clouds to blend in nicely in order to be a proper background piece. I don't want it to take away from Darth Vader at all. And then I added a layer mask to those clouds and I inverted it. As soon as you invert the layer mask, you can then use a soft round brush, paint white, and this will give you a really nice soft look and help you blend things so much easier. And let's not forget about Darth Vader. I have to add a layer mask to him as well and blend him into the background so he doesn't have that harsh cut. And just like magic, once we add that layer mask, we can blend the bottom of Darth Vader in. There's some sorcery going on here, guys. You know what, guys? I just wasn't happy, so I needed to add something else. And I found these really awesome lightning strikes, and I thought these would be really cool behind him, and kind of like a Palpatine thing, right? So I didn't like the color. Obviously, Darth Vader, his lightsaber is red, and you probably guessed it, I need to desaturate them and mess with the levels and then add a hue and saturation adjustment after that. That way we can add some color to them. I also want to make sure I position them and resize them so they look right in the design. If you're trying to color anything with hue and saturation, make sure you check colorize, okay? It's a little checkbox thingamajigger at the bottom of the hue and saturation palette, and if you do that, you can literally add color to anything. It's just super easy to use. Try it out, guys. That is looking good. Let's duplicate it and flip it so we have one on the right side. All right, time to add some text to our design. I'm hitting T on my keyboard to go to the type tool, and I'm typing out Darth Vader in a font that I like and one that I think matches the design. I found this font on dafont.com, so if you guys search for it on dafont.com, you will find it, and the name's right here on the screen, so just search for it and you will find it. But what I want to do is type out his first and last name, obviously, and just kind of position it where I want it. Next, I want to add a gradient overlay to both text layers, and when I'm doing this, I'm kind of just experimenting with the colors. As you can see right here, I'm choosing black on the left, and then I'm adding a middle color, which is usually going to be a lighter color. But again, this is really all about experimentation. You really just need to just mess with the colors, guys. That's all I can say, because every design is going to be different. Anytime you want to create those harsh cuts in your gradient, you just put the colors together, almost butting up against each other, and it will create this really cool vintage look. In order to create some separation from the harsh gradient and the font itself, I just want the font to be a little bit more legible. I'm just adding an inner glow to do that with red, because obviously the font is red, so I want the inner glow to match that. And you might be wondering, why aren't you just adding an inner stroke? And that's because it's a lot harsher to do it that way. When you add an inner glow, it gives it a nice soft look, and when you're working with retro styles, I think that looks much nicer. And you have the ability to add obviously some noise as well, like normal, so you can really, like I said, give it some of that texture and softer look, and I think it looks better. That's just my opinion. And if you really want to spice up any font, you can also add a bevel to it, but be very, very cautious when doing this, because it's easy to overdo it and it starts to look a little cheesy, unless you're going for that sort of thing. But with this one, I went very subtle with it. And in order to give the text a little bit more white to match Darth Vader's helmet, I added an inner stroke, and honestly it kind of gives it this metallic look. I really liked it. You guys try it out yourself, but it's really cool, especially when you're pairing it with bevel options. And you never have to do these effects more than once, guys. Once you have it done once, you can copy those effects from one layer to any other layer. All right, now I'm adding a warp to the top and bottom text lines, and I believe on the top it is going to be a lower arc, and on the bottom it's going to be an upper arc. And as you can see, it creates this arc, right? That's what it's called. But I think it looks really cool. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, but I like it a lot. Honestly, it didn't need it, but I think it adds to it. But this is how I did it, guys, and I think it turned out pretty cool. Let me know, like I said, in the comments section below. This design would not be complete without some lens flares. I went to Google, good old Google, and I found some lens flares, and I just copied them into Photoshop, changed the blend mode to screen, and just kind of moved them where I think they fit. And you're gonna see what it looks like in a second, but I like these a lot, and I know they're overused, but hey, they're cool. Come on, guys. And you guys already know I like my textures, so I went out and found some textures and just applied it under a layer mask to give it this really nice, obviously textured look, but a softer look as well. So when I add it to my mock-up later on, it just makes it look more vintage. It wears it out a little bit more, and it makes it more believable. I feel like anytime you're doing these like vintage retro type designs, it's good to add a little bit of texture. It's kind of needed, honestly. I mean, you can get away with not doing it sometimes, but in most cases, I think it does add to the design. So yeah, I mean, you do what you want to do though, you know, it's your life. Now on to my absolute favorite part of the process, which is finishing the artwork so I can mock it up and see what it actually looks like printed on a mock-up, a t-shirt in this instance. And I do have this vintage tee, which goes perfect with this style design, man. I love it. It's got this like torn up look. Seriously too freaking good. But that's it for the design, guys. Look, I know it's a lot to take in. If you guys need to take your time, rewind the video, watch it over and over again, guys. Dissect it. Take your time. Don't rush it. You're not going to learn overnight, guys. If you're new to designing, even if you're somebody that's been doing it for 10 plus years like me, you still learn new things. So don't be in a rush, guys. Take your time. I know I'm not holding your hand as much as I used to, obviously, but I think this is the best way to learn, by watching me do, right? When you watch somebody else do something, you can learn so much. So it's not always about like, hey, hold my hand and show me step by step how to do something. Sometimes the process of doing something is so much more important than somebody just giving you the cheat codes, if that makes sense. So anyway, had so much fun with this one, guys, and I hope you enjoyed it. You guys already know what to do. If you enjoyed the video, today I'm designing apparel for Kendrick Lamar in celebration for his new album that just released, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. This video is all about exploration, and that's why it's unscripted. I don't want to script something like this because I want you guys to see how I design and what goes through my brain while I'm doing it. And I thought that was going to be an interesting approach for this particular video. So let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section below. And if you guys want to find fonts or anything like that, you guys can sign up to Envato Elements right now. And I have a huge discount link in the description below. It's kind of a surprise. So click on it and find out what that discount is. I just downloaded a shit ton of fonts from Envato Elements, and I found another one. Of course, I cannot help myself. If I see a font, I have to download it. So I'm gonna download this one as well. If you have a Mac like me, you can just open up your font book and literally drag the fonts into the font book. Really cool. Now I wanna type in the album and see if I can find the album cover itself. I found the album art in a really high resolution, so that's awesome. I'm gonna save that. And that's pretty much it for now. I'm just gonna keep it like that. We're gonna make this, like, all these concepts super simple. I'm not trying to like overcomplicate anything. So I already have a 15 by 18 inch document open, 300 resolution. First thing I wanna do is just drag his album art in place so I can kind of start working off of it. And I might do like a big typeface design, something super clean and simple just for this iteration. And I think I might make it on a black shirt, so I'm just gonna keep the background color the same. And we're gonna start using some fonts that I downloaded off Envato Elements. I think what I wanna do is type out the album itself. Let's type in Addington, which is the font that I just downloaded. And this font actually looks really nice, and I think it can work for this. The kerning's a little off on some letters, but that's fine. We can always fix that. All right, cool. So Mr. Morale, and again, I'm just gonna make these like really big, and I'm gonna mess them up on purpose too. So I'm not too worried about the kerning right now. Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. So like, where do I wanna put and the Big Steppers, right? That's the question. So we're just gonna like, I'm just gonna type the whole thing out actually, because I'm not sure how I wanna structure this. I do think I want this to overlay on purpose. See, I already like the way this is looking, and it's not even like, we're not even like far into this yet. That's the funny part. But this looks really cool. So what I wanna do is just like move everything up. Maybe I'm tripping, I don't know, but I think it looks cool. You guys let me know in the comment section below. What I wanna do is explore some color options. So I think I'm gonna change the color overlay on this to maybe red. Just explore these different color palettes within the photo. Like this color right here on his shirt looks really good. So I might use that. But before we do that, I'm gonna grunge it up a little bit and make it look more appropriate to what we're trying to do here. What I'm gonna do now is duplicate Kendrick's photo, and I think I'm gonna add a displacement map to it on purpose just to make it look really distorted. So I'm gonna do a displacement map. That looks cool. So as you can see, this displacement map added some like cool characteristics there, and then we could kind of just hide the other one for now. And for Mr. Let's go and add a stroke around it. I wanna make everything look more rounded on purpose. Kind of like that, that's fine. And then this L is obviously touching a little too much, so we need to space that out. But it's okay if something's touch, in my opinion. I think that just makes it look cooler. I don't mind if the M and R touch either. I think that looks fine. So something like that, I don't know. But the cool thing about what we just did is I can just copy that stroke over to everything else. Like I can make that kind of like slanted on purpose, and we're gonna warp these a little bit as well. So what I wanna do is group all of the text in one like group, and I'm going to duplicate it so we have like a backup. I'm gonna name this type backup, so we have one extra backup in case I screw everything up right now. I'm gonna right click on this and convert this to a smart object, and that looks really good. And then I can hide the photo for now. And what I wanna do is select that and the background, and then just press Shift, Command, Option, and E, and that's going to duplicate everything on a black background. So basically we're copying the background with the text and making a duplicate copy of it, all merged together. Noise, add noise, and we're gonna add a shit ton of noise right now. Like a lot. And I'm gonna go up to filter, blur, let's add a Gaussian blur. And now let's go to levels. We can also just press Command or Alt L on our keyboard to go to our levels. And let's just start like bringing some of that. It's gonna look like shit at first, to be honest with you guys, but it's okay. That might even be like too much like texture, to be honest with you. All right, that looks pretty cool. So press OK. Let's blur that again. And let's do the same thing. Command L or Alt L on your keyboard. And let's just bring out some more of that detail. I'm making this look crappy on purpose, basically. That's the only way I could put it. Let me hide that other typeface backup copy. We could actually delete that, we don't need it. And I'm just going to take my magic wand and select the white. And obviously we have like a little pixel on the right-hand side. So I'm just gonna go to my lasso tool, hold in Option, or what would it be, Start, and just kind of select it. Yeah, so we're just going to deselect that little pixel. Now I can do Command or Alt X to cut that, delete that layer. Now do Shift, Command, or Alt V and paste that. And we can toggle that image back on with the displacement map. So now I'm gonna add a color overlay to these. And I really like red, to be honest with you guys. I think red is pretty viable right now. I like the red, I think it complements everything very well. I feel like we can also go with like a yellow if we wanted to, but for some reason I feel like Kendrick Lamar would like red. See, like the yellow looks really cool too, but I still feel like the red is just way too good to pass up. So we're gonna keep it red. And now I'm just gonna like screw this up even more on purpose. Something like that. It's less predictable this way. I don't know, to me this looks cool. So I'm gonna hit enter. Do we like it clean or do we like it warped? Huh. That's tough, man. Maybe I'll do that same thing, but like not go as crazy this time. Yeah, I like that. Okay, cool. We're gonna keep it. This might be really good as a front and back print, so I'm just going to duplicate the text. What I wanna do is group the text and the photo on a separate group and then make a duplicate copy of the text itself, the type, and use that maybe as a front print. So I'm gonna name this back print, and I already have a duplicate copy of the text. So I'm gonna go ahead and squish this together. So I'm gonna cut the top part and bring it down to the bottom. That looks cool, I don't know why. All right, let's merge these together. And this will work for like a white shirt as well. That's the cool thing about this. For the front, I still feel like it needs something. So I'm gonna type in Kendrick Lamar at the bottom. I'm gonna use my mock-ups from Bella Canvas that I made just to mock this up. So I'm gonna go to the back and the front. If you guys wanna pick these up, I have my website linked below. You can do that. These are really easy to use. Let's go ahead and do the front first. And I have a guide here so you can toggle that on, and it's really easy to place your artwork on these. Paste that, bam. And this is just going to be on the pocket or something, possibly. I'm gonna make a 20-inch by 20-inch document so I could just basically place all of my mock-ups on that one document so I can see what it looks like together. As you can see, these are really high quality mock-ups, so. And then let's change the background to white, or maybe even like a cream color. Let's try something like this. So now we have two different like color options, which is nice. There's one design knocked out, which looks pretty cool. And we're gonna do another one. So let's go back to our document. Let's do United in Grief, because that's his first track. So United, and I might end up changing the font up for the U. I ended up experimenting a lot right here, which is what design is all about, in my opinion. Sometimes you do things you like and sometimes you do things you don't like. And I was just letting my creativity flow. Also, I was using some assets from this company, and one of the owners reached out to me and sent me all the design elements, and they're really awesome. I will link them in the description below. For now, enjoy the rest of the time lapse. Those are three concepts. Here they are again in all their glory, so you guys can check them out in fine detail. Do you guys think that Kendrick Lamar should use them? Okay, are you ready? Let's get started.
I focused really heavy on 3D renders from Envato elements and some fonts to match that kind of like medieval vibe. Of course, I'm using some flames to bring it all together. Envato elements changes the game for designers because you start off with amazing quality assets, which makes the end result so much better. Enjoy the rest of the video.
Today I'm showing you how to design your own t-shirt and hoodie, and you can use these skills to design your own stuff after this video, completely custom. And just remember, you guys got this, all right? You could do this, I promise you. Takes practice. Let's get it.
Back on deck on my fly, really on my, pay some respect to my mindset. Head blowing smoke, catch a contact. Really mad they can't stop us. Back on the scene, young conscious. Always been me, I'm popping. I ain't really here for the gossip, nah. Blah blah blah, yum.
Alright guys, we're ready to begin. I'm in Photoshop and I need to prepare my images for the t-shirt design. Now, at this point, I didn't know what I even wanted to do with this t-shirt design. I just knew that I had a brain and I needed to make it work. And I wanted to challenge myself to take an object like this that's so simple and make something cool out of it. So right here, I'm just taking the brain and I'm cutting it out of its background. I ended up using remove background because it just made a better selection. And sometimes if I can get away with using remove background, which is Adobe's AI, so use Adobe's quick selections when you can get away with it. But if it doesn't work, you can always use things like the polygonal lasso tool, the magic wand. There's a bunch of different ways you can cut something out of its background. Even the pen tool some people like to use. Now I'm going through with my lasso tool and just cutting off little excess things that I don't need. Usually I spend around 15 to 20 minutes on making a selection. It really depends on the object that I'm cutting out. But I have a clean selection here. My brain is fully cut out. Not my brain, but some fake plastic brain. It's always a good idea to duplicate your main image that you're using so you have a backup in case you mess up or anything like that. So that's what I did right here. And I do want to desaturate one of the copies. This way I can start applying my effects to the copy and I have a backup, like I said, in case I mess up something. Now I'm applying a simple level adjustment to my image. That way I can mess with the shadows, midtones, and highlights to bring out some more details on the brain. That way when I add my effects later on, it's going to look much better that way. So I'm kind of preparing it before I start doing all the crazy editing on it. From here, all I need to do is turn layer 4 copy into a smart object and then go up to filter gallery, and then I could start applying my effects. The two filters that I always use is torn edges and grain, and together you get this really awesome vintage print look. I play with these levels until I get the desired look. I don't want to lose detail on my image, but I also don't want to blow out the highlights too much, if that makes sense. So you just really need to mess with the levels on both the torn edges and grain to get the look you're going for. Usually you want torn edges over grain. You want it on top of grain. That's how you get this effect. If grain is above torn edges, sometimes it doesn't look as cool, but play with it, see what works for you. Another thing I did was added a halftone pattern above torn edges. Halftone patterns are really cool if you want to make something look screen printed, obviously. So I really like this effect, and screen printers actually use this to transition gradients. Instead of, you can't print a gradient, let's just put it that way. So they use halftone patterns, and this allows them to print gradients on screen mesh. So my filter gallery effects are applied, and now all I need to do is go back up to levels and mess with the shadows, midtones, and highlights. And this is to bring out some of the textures that we just added with the filter gallery. Now that we added smart filters to our brain copy, we can copy these over to our other photo assets and apply the same effect, and that's what I'm doing right here. You will have to mess with the levels adjustments in order to get the effect to look right. and go into the filter gallery again and play with some of the levels if it doesn't look right. But once you do all that, you should be good to go. Another thing that I did was added a rectangle. I just wanted to fill up some space on the bottom right of the design. So I thought of having kind of like a diagram right there. So I made a rectangle and I just added a small stroke to it. And this way, when I add an image inside of it, it will have that nice little white border. And right here, I'm using my second photo asset.
Back on deck on my fly, really on my, pay some respect to my mindset. Head blowing smoke, catch a contact. Really mad they can't stop us. Back on the scene, young conscious. Always been me, young poppin'. I ain't really here for the gossip, nah. Blah blah blah, yum. Try to play me, but you tried it. Way too wavy, gotta ride it. Pull up on you, yeah we sliding. Make our eyes roll when I slide in. Neck on wrist on shaman. Tell them say less, no comment. And we only here for the commas.
Now I need to make a second copy of my brain with the filter gallery effects, rasterize all those together, and then we're gonna actually play with the liquify tool under filter. So what the liquify tool does is it allows me to basically make it look like part of the brain is dripping or drooping, whatever you want to say. It just gives it this really realistic drip effect. I really love it. Try it out. It's fun. It's really fun. You can mess around with this effect for hours. It's really that addicting. So but anyway, I kind of just wanted to affect the bottom left of the brain, or the bottom half of the brain. Obviously I'm trying to fill up some space on the left hand side because I have that rectangle on the right side. So I'm really thinking about composition right here. Now it's time to add some text to my design. Brain Dead isn't anything specific. I just came up with a name on the spot. If it's a brand or something, it's whatever to me, honestly. It's a name that I added to a design. I always have people commenting on my videos, isn't that already a clothing brand, Charlie? Like, what the hell are you doing? Like, dude, chill. It's a freaking name. You guys would be surprised some of the comments I read on the daily basis. Like, I give out free information and I get so much hate and so many people assuming that I'm stealing stuff. Like, I'm not stealing anything. Like, that's not what I do. I teach graphic design. That's what I do. So chill the fuck out in the comment section. Seriously. I literally just started blocking people because of that. That's how fed up I am of it. Like, doing this since 2013, you just get tired of it. It gets really old. But I found this font called Mars Attack, and I really like it. And I found this on Envato Envato Elements. It's a really nice font. You can pick any font you like. Now what I'm doing is actually duplicating Brain Dead, and I want to add a black version of it under the red version. That way I can create a drop shadow. Now I realize I didn't have to do it this way. I could have just added a drop shadow. It would have accomplished the same thing and it would have saved my layers. Or I guess you could say I would have had one less layer, but nonetheless, that's the effect I'm going for. I want it to look like it's kind of coming off the brain. It has a drop shadow, right? So it's creating some dimension. And you guys know how much I love texture, so I'm using a soft round brush with the blend mode dissolve and adding texture on a new layer above Brain Dead, which is the red Brain Dead, not the bottom drop shadow layer. And what this is going to do is allow me to add some really nice texture to the bottom half of Brain Dead. And then from there, I'm just adding an inner glow of the same red color as my font. That way it can blend. You guys already know how I am with my textures. I love them. There is definitely such thing as too much texture though, so do not overdo it. So we have our header, right? We have Brain Dead. That's our brand name. Let's add some subheaders to our design. This is what I call them. You can call them whatever you want, but basically I want some other design elements. So I'm just adding some random text. I don't even know what I'm typing out. Literally just typing out some random stuff that comes to my mind. None of this means anything, but it's okay. It just adds to the design and the overall look. I did find this wave pattern online, so I wanted to add that to the background to give the design even more dimension. And as you can see, I'm just messing with the colors a little bit. So what I ended up doing was actually just making these lines white and then changing the color later on to a lighter gray color to blend in with the background to make it more subtle, and then adding a layer mask to just mask out certain parts that I wanted to blend into the shirt fabric more, obviously, because our black color, our background color, is our shirt color, right? So that's the way I look at it, and I needed to find a way to blend these waves into the shirt color. So that's what I'm doing right here, and it's not really difficult. It's just a little time consuming, but what isn't, right? So the next thing I want to do is add a layer above my brain, and then I'm just going to paint red, okay? And the reason why is because I just wanted to give the design something else. It just, I don't know, it was lacking something. There was too much white. So I wanted to add a little bit more balance with the colors. So what I'm doing is actually creating a clipping mask, and the brain is in a group right now. So I'm creating a clipping mask and just adding that red color to the brain, and then I'm using blend modes to delete it from my highlights, and then this is what it looks like. Now it's time to fill up some space on the left side. There's a lot of negative space, so I'm adding some more text, of course, and I am going to make this vertical text. So if you look at the top left of Photoshop, you'll see a T with arrows down. You just want to click that, and that will change the text to vertical. And there also is a vertical type tool that you can use, but I like this look, and I'm just typing out, again, some random words. That's all I'm doing, and I come up with this stuff on the spot most of the time because this isn't for an actual client, obviously, so I don't have anything to really go off of, so I'm using my imagination. The design's 99% done. That 1% is basically making adjustments to some small stuff, like maybe I don't like the positioning of the right side elements, so I can mess with those. For instance, I noticed that the text on the right side, right next to our diagram on the left, there was something off about it. So I did end up editing that and adding a little bit more white to it. So it says patient 0100. Okay, that's just a patient number. Why not? I wanted to make that middle text white just to give it some balance. Again, everything's about balance to me. There's actually a couple other things I wish I would have done on the left side, like added maybe a white line or something. But anyway, we're not going to go there. And I also wanted to move my diagram over because I realized the design is getting a little off balance. It's too right heavy. So I'm using my rulers to kind of figure out where things need to sit in our design space, I guess you can say. And this is what I came up with. So this is the final design, and now it's time to mock it up. So I'm using a hoodie by the Mock Shop. This is not my hoodie. I will be coming out with my own hoodie mock-ups. I will be using my own t-shirt mock-up though that you can buy on my website right now. That is linked in the description below, along with all the design resources that we discussed today. If you are a member of my channel, just so you know, if you are a level 3 member, you do get access to this design file. I'm about to upload that probably within the next week or even sooner. So definitely keep an eye out on that. But this is kind of like the determining factor if our design worked or not. Like if it doesn't look good on merch, then you probably don't want to print it, right? But I think this one looks really, really cool. I can see it in Hot Topic or something. One extra tip before I go. I usually copy my entire design's canvas, copy, merge, and then paste it in place, or just paste it, doesn't matter. And then I go to blend modes and I delete the black out of the design so it's ready for DTG printing. Screen printing, there is a more lengthy process to separate the colors, but we're not going to get into that in this video. But nonetheless, now it is print ready. Most screen printers and DTG printers like PNG files, PDF files, Photoshop files, AI files, all that good stuff. So just ask your print shop what files they prefer, and that's as simple as it gets, guys. That concludes Merch Design episode 22.
Today, you guys already know what time it is. Let's begin. You guys are ready to learn. Let's talk about resources. Quality design resources help make designing an easy task. Use websites such as Envato Elements, Unsplash, Adobe Stock, or even my website, charliepangus.com, to find the assets that fit your design perfectly. The statue that you see in front of you was found using Envato's 3D image stock, which is amazing because you can rotate the images to any degree that you want to fit your design, and that is so powerful, and that's exactly where I found this. I'm using the pen tool right here to trim around the neck. That way I can just isolate the face and work with that. Combining all these different design assets together also yields different results, and there's a million different combinations that you can go with. I found an entire vector 3D grid pack on Envato Elements, so I'm using it on this design along with the statue in order to create something truly unique. Finding graphics, fonts, and other design assets sometimes isn't enough. Photoshop has powerful tools. Use them and master them to fit your resources into your design. Don't be afraid of warping, bending, and sometimes even erasing an asset to make it work with your design. The beautiful thing about Photoshop is we can do things that allow us to really transform an image that's pretty simple on the surface, but we can really complicate that image and make it look like a completely new piece of art. Now, right here, you see me doing a lot of cutting, using layer masks, warping with the transform tool, and all that good stuff, but that's really all it is. Nothing more, nothing less.
Choosing the right font is crucial when creating your design. I'll give you guys a quick example. If you're creating a design from the 90s, let's say, in that style and use a modern font from 2021, it might throw the entire vibe off. Research is going to be your best friend, and it's always going to pay off before starting any design. One tip I can give you guys when trying to find fonts is use keywords that describe your design that you're going for. So if you're doing a 90s design, type in 90s fonts and try to find one that fits your design. When I was designing this, I thought of past and present, space and time. And with the 3D grid, I just automatically thought of space fonts. So I went and looked for fonts that had that vibe, and Envato Elements had one that I really liked. Use different font sizes to give your design hierarchy. This is important to make your design look pleasing to the eye and drive your viewers' attention to certain areas of your design. For example, Survive is larger on purpose, so it's the first thing my viewers will notice. To reiterate, if you guys want to make designing super easy, find the right design resources, whether that is graphics, fonts, whatever it may be, find them before you start designing. That's exactly what I did with this design. I found everything I wanted to use on it, and look how easy it is. Now I just have to plug and play, position, resize, figure out where I want things to sit, and let my imagination run wild. All right, let's talk about color now. Finding the right color can be challenging at times. Use websites such as Adobe Color to find color palettes that fit your design. This is one of my favorite parts of the design process, and I find it super relaxing. What about you? A lot of what I do is very repetitive. I use the same exact methods I teach you guys in every video to achieve the designs that you see me make. What it comes down to, honestly, is a lot of patience and having fun in Photoshop and just really trying new things out, being innovative. The worst thing you could possibly do is get frustrated, guys. Trust me. You're never going to be the best designer. Remember that. There's always going to be somebody out there better than you or more skilled than you, but that is okay. You don't have to be the best. Make designs that you enjoy. I have a few more things to say to you guys before I go, and I also want to show you the final mock-up. I hope you guys like it. Remember, guys, have fun. Design is all about self-expression. Be you and let your unique personality shine. I can't say unique, guys. I don't know why. Let your unique personality shine through your work. That is how you will constantly grow as a designer. I hope all of you learned something today. Thanks for watching. Unique. Today's video, I'm going to redesign some merch from Civil Regime and show you guys the entire process from start to finish. And before we get into the video, a quick word from our sponsor. Today's tutorial is brought to you by Envato Elements. Envato Elements delivers unlimited access to over 55 million assets, such as fonts, photos, video templates, WordPress themes. Check out this awesome pullover hoodie mockup that I found on Envato Elements, and I added my art to it. It looks super crisp. Oh, and check out this logo glitch reveal that I downloaded for Final Cut Pro.
Love it. Envato offers a nice, simple license that counts even after your subscription ends. Follow the link in the description below and get 50% off with an annual subscription, giving you access to everything for less than $20 a month. That's all for Envato Elements. Let's design some merch. In this video, we're gonna be recreating something like this, and I really like the Civil Regime brand. I think it's really cool. I did provide you guys with a PNG download. You can download that right now before starting this video, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video. So if you haven't done that yet, I would definitely do that before continuing on. When you guys go to download it, you're gonna see this eagle and you're gonna see this horse. Before we start compositing our images, let's go ahead and press Command or Alt-N on our keyboard. That's gonna pop up this new document window, and go to inches, and let's just do a 14 by 15 or 16 inch document. Let's make the resolution set to 300. The inches really doesn't matter. It depends on, how big you're gonna print this. If you want it to be larger, obviously make it larger, or you could just set up a template like I did, which is MBA, which is merch by Amazon. And it's already kind of set up for me. It's 4,500 pixels by 5,400 pixels at 300 resolution. And the color profile, I wanna make sure that this is set to something else. So let's make it working sRGB, or we could even do Adobe RGB. That's a pretty safe one for your color profile. I have a new monitor and I'm still kind of experimenting with it, but if yours is like set to default, just leave it there. And then the pixels, you can keep that at square pixels. I don't want to go over this too much more, so that's pretty much it. You can copy my settings and then hit create, just like that. So now we have our document. Before we get into the video, I want to go over my workspace setup. So I have my toolbar on the left-hand side, and if you look at your workspace, I'm using graphic and web. You can also use essentials if you want. Really, any of these will work. The main thing is having your layers palette present, your styles, swatches, and color, stuff of that nature. Even properties is pretty helpful. Character, all that good stuff is good to have. Everything else I don't really use a ton, but it is important to have all of the main things showing and set them up how you want them, whatever feels comfortable to you. Enough about that. Let's go ahead and start designing. We're gonna go to our folder with our horse. I'm just gonna copy the entire artboard. So I'm gonna do Command A or Alt A on my keyboard. Once you do that, you can either go up to Edit, Copy Merged, or you can do Shift Command C to copy that. Let's go ahead and paste it on top of our artboard now. Just like that. And it's gonna be pretty small, but I'm not really too worried about it. We're gonna sharpen it and stuff like that. Once you paste that, hold in Shift and Option, and then just resize it just like this. You can also make sure the top parameters are linked right here and just do it that way as well. It's really up to you. It is going to be a little blurry, but it's not too bad. We're gonna crispen, is that even a word? We're gonna sharpen this up in a second, so I'm not too concerned about it. The next order of business is we need to take these wings right here from the eagle. And in order to do that, I'm just gonna hit L on my keyboard or go to the lasso tool, however you wanna do it. And I'm just gonna select around this wing right here. And I actually wanna select more of it because I'm gonna use it to blend it in, just like that. And obviously it's not the right color, but again, we're gonna fix that. Press Command C on your keyboard. Let's go to our document and paste that in place. Again, it's gonna be pretty small, but that's fine. We're gonna fix that in a second. Let's make it a little bit larger, and we're gonna kind of position it where we want this to sit. Now let's go ahead and grab the other wing, and this one, I'm not even sure if I'm gonna end up using it yet. I might need a different angle or whatever, but we're gonna try it out and see where it goes. So let's paste that in place as well. Once you cut those wings out, you're gonna have two different wings, obviously, and we're gonna have the horse. Let's go ahead and title everything. So what I'm doing is left clicking twice on my layer 1 name, and I'm gonna name this horse. And then we can left click on layer 2 as well and name that wing 1. And then we can name this one wing 2, same thing. So now we have everything placed where we need it to be, and we can start kind of blending things together and figuring out how this Pegasus is going to come to life. So let's start with the first wing and just kind of drag it where we think it should be. Again, this is going to be kind of difficult because I don't know exactly where I kind of want this. Obviously, this wing is going to be hidden on his back. One thing I want to do before even blending it though is I want to desaturate this wing completely. And we are going to go to levels and raise the levels up a lot because I want to make this wing look more white. So we're just using levels right now. That's literally it. To try to blend it in a little better. And it would have been helpful actually to duplicate the wing first, but it's okay. I can get it really easily. And then from here, what I want to do is add a layer mask. And I'm just going to really softly mask around his face where I don't want that wing to show up. Does that make sense? Hope that does. We can even take down the flow a little bit. Let's take it down to like 35 and just start blending it in like this. So this might look a little funky at first, but we'll kind of figure it out as we go. Maybe even make it like the perspective a little different as well. So Command T and then right click on that, and then you can make it look like it's more like it has this perspective. This part's a little more time consuming, guys, so be patient with it. It's going to be kind of difficult, especially if you're new to like image compositing and stuff like that, this part's not gonna be easy for you. But it's one of those things where if you just like keep practicing, you could definitely get it down. I don't even know if that wing looks honestly that good. I might need to find a different wing. What I'm doing is using this right wing and I duplicated it twice. So I have one under the horse and one above. I'm not really like in love with these wings though. I'm not even sure if they're gonna work, honestly. Like there's something funky about them, but I'm gonna try my best. I think that like right here, they don't look too bad. What I would like to do though is duplicate my horse once. So Command J while selecting that layer, the horse layer. Alternatively, if you don't want to do that, you could just click and drag it to the plus icon at the bottom of the layers palette and it will duplicate it. Let's go ahead and hide that. And let's also make the wings as smart objects. So I'm right clicking on them and converting them to a smart object. You can just name that wing 1 and then wing 2. That way we know where they are. I meant to do wing 2 on that one. All right, so now that those are smart objects, I'm gonna go up to Image, Adjustments, Hue and Saturation. Also Command U if you want to use your shortcuts, that's completely fine. And we don't really wanna mess with anything else but the saturation on this particular adjustment. Let's go up to Image, Adjustments one more time. And we could do a levels adjustment on this one and just kind of play with the levels a little bit. It's okay to add a little bit of contrast back to it, but we're gonna stick with something like this. We're gonna make them look super, I don't know what you would call it, holy, if you will. Now what we wanna do is take this smart filter and copy it to the other wing. So we're gonna hold an Option, click and drag this to the other one, just like that. So now we have something that looks like that. And we could do the same kind of process to the horse. We don't want to ruin the horse though. We don't want them to be too bright, but we kind of want to see if we can match the brightness a little bit closely with the wings. Now let's right click on the horse and convert that to a smart object as well. We already have a copy, keep in mind, so we can kind of drag that below and just set it off to the side. And let's do the same exact thing. Let's go ahead and copy this smart filter onto the horse copy. And it's gonna look obviously really bad right now, but we're gonna fix that in a second. So what we can do is delete that levels, add another one. Let's add another levels adjustment by pressing Command or Alt L on our keyboard, and we can easily make another levels. And it's okay if this one's a little bright. We kind of need that to blend in everything. With that being said, I kind of like the way this is looking now. It's a little better. Let's go ahead and add a layer mask to this wing right here. And let's just sort of try to blend it in just a little bit. Doesn't have to be perfect, you know, obviously, but try to do your best. What I want to do is duplicate wing 2 one more time. And I'm going to convert everything again. And we can actually even rasterize this now. And I want to try to add a warp to it and just see if I can kind of make it look a little better. Maybe. I'm not sure if this is even going to make it look better or not, but I really just want to try to warp it to the body a little bit better. Maybe even make it flare out. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Okay, that's looking a little better. Maybe we could do the same thing for the other wing, making it look like it's got a little bit more character, not just default. I think it's starting to look better, honestly. After positioning it and like kind of blending it in, I think this is all right. This is a good starting point. It's definitely not the best. I'm sure there's somebody out there that could kill this and do a way better job than me, but I'm not mad at it either. So we're gonna kind of stick with this version of it. The only other thing I do wanna do is add a little bit of shading behind the horse's head because obviously, you know, with this wing being behind, there's gonna be some shadows going on. So we wanna address that real quick. And what we could do actually is select this bottom wing, which is wing 1 copy, press Command or Alt on your keyboard, select the thumbnail by left clicking on it. Let's go back to layer 1, which is going to be our shadow layer. And then I could just kind of start painting in, you know, where I think this shadow should be. All right, I think that looks a little better, just with a little shading, nothing too crazy. Now what I want to do is duplicate the top wing once, add another levels adjustment. And I want to try to bring out a little bit more contrast in it. I feel like it's a little, you know, it's lacking contrast just a little bit. So I'm just gonna bring a lot of those levels down and we can clip that to wing 2 copy. So it just, you know, kind of looks like it has a little bit more contrast, and then we can just mask out the bottom part. So I added a layer mask. I'm using black as my foreground color. Just make sure your foreground color is set to black and you can delete. And if you press D on your keyboard, it's going to make sure that the palette on the left-hand side here is default, which is white in the foreground and black in the background. So you want to hit that little arrow and make sure it's black. And then I'm just going to add a little bit more, just keep playing with it a little bit. See, so now when I, you know, toggle it on and off, you can see that now it's got a little bit more contrast. It looks a little better. I want to find a font that I really like for this project. So in order to like really keep you guys on the same page, I'm going to go find a font with you guys and we're going to download it together. So let's go ahead and go to dafont.com. What we want to do is go to the basic section here. When you go to DA font, you're going to see basic on the kind of like more of the middle side. And let's go to various and just type in Civil Regine, however you say that. And let's try to find a font that we, you know, think can potentially work with this. And maybe we should do lowercase as well. And again, I'm really paying attention to the characters to see, you know, if I can get something that's kind of closer to what they have right now. And this is sometimes a lot easier said than done. Another thing that we might want to work with is just a serif, a plain serif. I think this would look better. And I mean, we could change the font up too. We don't have to copy the font that they have, but I think it's important that we kind of get semi close to what they have. See, I like this one right here. It's bold. It's called Subway. I like the way that looks. And I also love Vintage. These are both really good fonts. So let's download both of those. Vintage Rovery, and then let's zoom in a little bit more for you guys. There we go. So now we can really see what's going on. All right, so I have Vintage Rovery, and then we have Subway. Let's go to tab 2 now. Let's go look at the design. Maybe that's gonna help. I'm pretty sure we have this font already. I forgot the name of it though. I'm almost positive I have this font already. We're not gonna spend too much time on this. I want one that's a little sharper though. It's just one of those things where I can sit here for hours looking for a font. It needs to be super legible too, that's the thing. Let's go to tab 4. I know I said tab 3 now, but let's just go to tab 4. All right, so the only thing that I will say is like sometimes you just have to try things and see if it works. So we're gonna try Bambi out. That's the one I just downloaded. And I will include this in the description of the video as well, so you guys can download it in case you couldn't find it with me. What I did is I took the group and I just named it horse. So I'll do that again real quick. As you can see, that group has everything that has to do with the horse. Now we are good to go. And we can actually group these together too and just name these copy or something like that. So we know where everything is. And now what we wanna do is hit T on our keyboard and let's just start typing something out. Before we do that though, as you can see, all of our text is selected, but it's hidden. Let's just make sure that our foreground color is white, and then you will see everything again. And we could just type out civil and then lowercase Regine. And we want to go to our font titled Bambi. So I'm selecting my font and then just changing the font to Bambi. And then now we can kind of just kind of resize it. I almost feel like it needs to be more condensed. I'm gonna go to the site called myfonts.com/whatthefont. And what you could do is you can upload a screenshot or whatever of an image and it will attempt to find the font for you. So we're gonna try this out and see if I can find one that's a little closer. I had to use Adobe fonts to find the font that I really wanted to use on this project. Nonetheless, we have that font now, which is good. And I could start using it. And I think I'm gonna use this version of it right here. This one's not terrible. It's not exact, obviously, but I think it works much better than the other one. So I'm definitely a lot happier with it. And I don't care if it's being covered up, you know, like that's fine. Sometimes you got to be careful with this, but I think you can still read it. And another thing is we do want to change the font color. So I'm just going to double click on the thumbnail and we are going to change this to like a really poppy red. So now we have this poppier red. And let's go ahead and find some lightning on Google. So let's go to Google, find something that will fit this design nicely. Something that's just super energetic. I'm just gonna use the one that I have real quick and just kind of see if I can come up with something cool with it. And then we can put it above everything. Let's try different blend modes out real quick and see what looks better. You can go to adjustments and mess with the levels as well. As you can see, that helps a little bit. I think this is gonna look much better as a background element. What I'm doing is putting this below the horse real quick. We can hide the horse for now. Let's go ahead and double click on layer 1 where the blank space is. So left click twice. And let's go to the blend if options where it says this layer. Hold in Alt or Option and just separate this little arrow right here. We're gonna delete all the black out of it. And then let's go ahead and convert this to our smart object. And now it shouldn't have a background, which is what we want. And we can color this white or whatever color you want really. And then let's toggle that horse back on. Another thing is I do think they are using more of a blue color. So that's fine with me. We can go to like a lighter blue and let's add an outer glow as well because I do think they have a glow on it. Take that opacity up a little bit more. And then we want to mess with the choke and all that stuff. You can even raise the opacity all the way up to 100. I don't think that's going to hurt. And then a little noise I don't think will hurt either. So let's add a little bit of noise to this. And I'm just going to take my eraser tool and erase the parts that I don't like. I think the color overlay needs to be brighter. So I'm just going to go a little bit brighter with it. First, I do want to figure out what the hell I want to do with everything. Another thing is there's a lot of texture on this other design. So we will have to texture the shit out of it. But we'll get there. What I want to do is focus on some sort of like definition right here on the left side, how they have sin. We can do something like that, that's fine, but I'm going to put mine on the right side because we have a lot of empty space right there. So we do have to kind of rework the way we do it since ours is like laid out a little differently. And then I also want to use a secondary font. And I think I'm going to go with something really standard for this one. Maybe Railway. I've used it before.
think it might be a good pair for this. So we're gonna type out sin, and then below that we can have some sort of definition, and I wanna use my guides as well, just so I kind of know where everything is and we can make sure we're lining everything up properly. If you don't know where your guides are, just press Command R on your keyboard and it will go to it. All right, I'm gonna look up sin definition real quick, and it's not like a huge one. So maybe we can just like find one that's a little bit more embellished. All right, we're just gonna take this like little explanation of what sin is and use that. And I think that might look really, really cool. I'm gonna hit T on my keyboard and make a text box, something like that. And then we're just gonna paste that definition in that we just found. I think I wanna right align this paragraph as well, something like that. And this is going to be above everything. So I could drag it above everything first. And we could group that and just add a quick color overlay to this. Maybe civil is a little too big even, you know? So we might need to resize that a little bit. So let's resize that, bring our rulers in. And there's a couple like little lightning parts that I don't like. We're gonna fix that in a second. I think maybe sin can be red as well though. And maybe take that out of the group so it's not in the group. Something like that. I think that, you know, gives it a little bit more contrast. And it looks like we have a little bit of an issue right here where our lightning looks a little weird. I just don't like the lightning at all. I think it looks bad. I'm gonna go back to Google and I'm gonna hit tools, size, and we're gonna click large. And I wanna find one that's like much, much larger, higher quality and everything, because again, it didn't look very good. I found a better lightning strike. So we're gonna try to use this one. I'm gonna desaturate this real quick, desaturate, and maybe even let's add a threshold effect over that. So I'm going to this little adjustment layer icon, which is this little circle, and then hitting threshold, pressing threshold, clicking on it, whatever you wanna say. Now we can select the background, just unlock it real quick. So double click on that layer, hit okay. That's gonna unlock it. Select the the lightning, and then select threshold at the same time, and then press Option Command E, and that's going to merge it together, and we can hide everything else. But the background, obviously we want that. And let's click on it and just delete the black out of it. And now we are left with just that strike, which is way better looking. I'm just gonna kind of figure out how I can maneuver this. I want this to be a little bit blue, not too blue, maybe even a little more purple, make it very light blue. And then where the magic's going to happen is let's add a outer glow to it. And we wanna make sure the spread isn't too much. We also want to lower that noise, maybe even not put noise. On the inner color, let's make it more white, because on the inside of the strike, it's going to be a lot brighter. We want to make sure we don't mess with the opacity too much, because if we're DTG printing this, lower opacities have a lot harder time to print, is what I recently learned. So we want to be careful of doing that. You know, obviously have fun with it, but yeah, just be kind of cautious of that. Maybe send this behind everything first, and then we can kind of piece it together that way. And let's try to add some more, kind of making it look like the horse is just freaking lit up. Group this together and name it lightning. And then I can copy that whole group, put that above everything, convert that, add a layer mask just like we did last time, and let's start painting in some sections that we want to show. See how easy this is though, guys? Like, it really isn't that hard once you get the hang of it. We need to kind of pick and choose though where we want this to show. This wing can show, this can show. I'm cool with it. I'm not mad at that. So now it's got something going on. Let's put some back here too, just to give it a little bit more pizzazz. That's a dumb word. That looks like it's got some shit going on, man. See, just very subtle, nothing too crazy, you know? Let's rasterize these and just get rid of those pieces that we don't like. There's a couple more up here that we need to delete as well. So I think by getting rid of these, it will really benefit the design more. This can be ungrouped actually. We don't need this text layer in a group. And then let's add a drop shadow to it to make it pop out a little bit. Let's go ahead and take a soft brush, dissolve it. I love doing this, by the way. I do it a lot. And let's make sure it is on pure black and just start painting on the bottom here. And then let's add an inner glow to our design here. Let's make it the same red as our text. And as you can see, now it's got that texture. By adding that inner glow, we're just really allowing it to look very soft, and it blends perfectly in with our text. You can change this, the choke on it. We don't really need a lot of noise, just a little bit, like maybe 10 to 14% is okay. I'm even gonna do just 12 maybe. Make sure opacity is at 100. The range you can change as well. That will also kind of choke it out. And if I zoom out, you can see what we got going on here. The horse honestly needs some adjusting. So let's go ahead and add a curve adjustment above it and make sure it's clipped to that horse group. And then let's go to the curve. And I'm gonna make like 3 or 4 points. See, we're gonna give it a little bit more definition. Now we're gonna add some texture. So let's go ahead and find some texture. I'm gonna go to unsplash.com and try to find a nice texture that I can use. This one looks pretty good and it's nice and crisp. And we're gonna paste that in place, rotate it, and just make sure it's the same size as our canvas, okay? And then now what I wanna do is press Command or Alt on my keyboard, left click on that,
Let's copy this, copy merged, and then Command D or Alt D to deselect that. Add a layer mask to the horse, and we're gonna enter that layer mask by holding an Option. And now we're gonna press Shift Command V or Shift Alt V. Let's go ahead and look at it now. So now it should have that texture. And if you want, if you unlink it, you can move it around just like this. What I do usually to adjust it a little bit more is I hold an Option to enter the layer mask again. And then from here, we could just literally adjust the levels of our texture if you want it to be a little brighter like that. From there, it's gonna just basically bring out a little bit more brightness of the design. So anyway, that's the easy way to do it. So that's pretty much it, guys. I mean, if you zoom in now, you can see how like detailed it is. And let's go ahead and mock this up real quick. So this is their design, and then this one is ours. The only thing we didn't add was the 429. I didn't think it really needed it, but if you guys want to add it, you could totally do that. We're gonna go ahead and use my mockup for this example. So I wanna just copy that design now and paste that on the mockup. And then again, we wanna make sure it's in the design goes here folder. And to make it blend in with the shirt better, just change the blend mode to screen, and then you can lower the fill a little bit.
Ahoy there!
first start off with the client brief. The client requested that he wanted a skull with an all-seeing eye and some roses, some flames, and that gave me a good idea where to start. It was pretty self-explanatory, straightforward, so let's get to the design portion of the video. The first place I started was Adobe stock, and I needed to find a skull image, but not just any skull image. I really wanted to have a certain position with its jaw open. That was kind of tough to find on any other website. Honestly, it can get expensive, but it really is a great resource if you're looking for images that you can't find anywhere else. I just so happened to find this skull that I loved, and I'm just removing the background from it right here. I decided to just use Adobe's AI to remove the background. Under quick actions, you just literally click remove background, and if the background's simple enough and the subject is isolated enough, it will remove it with ease. The next thing I need to do is desaturate the skull, so I'm gonna go up to image, adjustments, and scroll all the way down to desaturate. Now all I need to do is go up to filter and click camera raw filter, and I'm going to edit the skull to bring out some details. So I'm bringing up the shadows, raising the textures and the clarity, and dehazing it a little bit to bring some contrast into it. So if you ever want to bring out some details in a design and make things pop, this is a great way to do it. Next, I'm going to introduce a triangle shape just to see what it looks like, and I end up not keeping it later. This design really evolved from very small ideas to big ideas, because originally I thought it was just going to be a really quick design, but I ended up doing so much more to it at the end. And at the beginning of the video, you can see how intricate the design is, but when you watch the process, you can see me kind of going the opposite of the final design, which is something that happens all the time. But nonetheless, this is the process, so you kind of just have to embrace it and enjoy it. But anyway, I have that triangle now, and I need to go find an eye so I can actually add that to the forehead of the skull. After doing a very quick Google search, I found this eye. So I'm desaturating it again, just like I did the skull, and it's pretty much the same process now. I just need to blend it using some layer masks, and I'm not going to get into detail with this process, but enjoy watching me do it. And if you guys really want, I can make an in-depth tutorial on this. Also, I am going to be working on another Udemy course that goes into way more detail than I can go into on this channel. Now that the eye is blended, I went to Google again and found some flames, and it's best to find flames that are on a black background, because then you just simply change the blend mode to screen and it will blend the flames into your design seamlessly. As soon as I change that blend mode to screen, it's literally going to look like it never had a background, and it's going to turn completely transparent, which is amazing. You sometimes do have to mess with levels, but that's about it. And like I said before, this design started off as a simple idea and kind of evolved from there. I didn't end up keeping these flames because I simply didn't like them after kind of adding all the other elements. So I just wanted to show you that I did add them, but just know that they do end up going away, and I end up finding some other flames that I liked better. Currently in the middle of moving, so I just wanted to get a video out for you guys so you guys know that I'm trying. Obviously, when I move into my new place in Tennessee, I will be able to obviously get back to the videos and stuff like that, and obviously spend more time on them. But as of right now, I'm going to leave you guys, but I want you guys to enjoy the rest of this design process. And if you guys have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. And if you guys want to see any of these effects in a full tutorial, let me know as well, and I will be sure to work on that once I'm fully moved into my new place. But until then, enjoy this video. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Keep creating, keep being awesome. Peace.
In today's video, I'm showing you guys how to design an astronaut streetwear style design in Adobe Photoshop. I linked some design assets that you guys can go download right now to follow along with this tutorial. With that being said, let's get started.
Guidance control online, over.
Before you start designing anything, you need to go find the design assets. That way you can actually design, right? Because you can't just make a design out of thin air. You have to have something to go off of. Now, if you're an artist, like an illustrator, you can just illustrate your own graphics. But if you're somebody that doesn't have a heavy illustration background, that's fine. You could just go find design assets as long as you own rights to them or download them the proper way. So what I would recommend doing is using sites like Envato Elements. Let me show you guys what that looks like. I use Envato Elements for everything, just like this hypnotic, colorful shape animation that you saw at the intro. A lot of the other elements, such as this mountain grid, I also found there. So anyway, you can find everything on there. And if you guys would like to sign up, I do have an affiliate link in the description below for you guys. But another thing that we need to talk about is preparing the actual assets. Now, sometimes if you're using, like, let's say a realistic photo such as this astronaut, you will need to prepare it. In order to prepare this, let's go ahead and import it into our document, and it's already separated. And this is the file that I'm giving you guys below. So we don't really need to do anything else. Let's just drag it into our actual artwork file here. This is very small, and it's obviously going to be pixelated as soon as we resize it, since this is not a vector program, but we will fix that in a second with a screen printing method. The document size I'm using today is a 15-inch by 18-inch document, and you can see that when you go up to image and canvas size, it's 15 by 18 at 300 resolution, and that's usually like more of a merged by Amazon document size. What I want to do is I want to take my astronaut and rename this layer so we know where it is. And you don't have to do this, but it definitely helps a lot. And what I want to do is press Command T on my keyboard, and what that's going to do is put a transform box, a bounding box around my astronaut. I'm just going to hold an Option, resize it. We're going to make it pretty big at first. Before we do anything else to this astronaut, there is a problem. He is lacking contrast, so we're going to bring some of that back using the Camera Raw filter plugin in Adobe Photoshop. So press Command Shift A, and what we want to do is we can zoom in, not too close, but a little closer. And now let's go ahead and play with the highlights and the contrast levels. And we don't really need to mess with shadows. We can bring out a little bit of the whites, not too much, even lower those, honestly. Bring up the shadows. Just play with these levels, honestly, until you find something that you are happy with. We can even dehaze it a little bit. So just kind of play with it and figure out what you think looks good. The main thing is we need contrast between the shadows, midtones, and highlights. We are pretty much ready to start adding some color and separate the colors on this astronaut so we can start adding other design elements to this design to make it really pop. Now in part 3, we're gonna be creating the actual design, and there's gonna be a lot of the same stuff being repeated. So just pay attention. And if you guys need to slow the video down, definitely do so. But what I want to do now is use this threshold method to separate some colors and add color to the astronaut in order to set the stage for the final design. The method I'm about to show you guys I've used before, but another YouTuber by the name of Intuitive Designs brought this to my attention. I kind of forgot about this method. I don't typically use it because I do a lot of DTG printing, but when you guys screen print, it is going to help you so much. So anyway, let's go ahead and do it. The first thing we need obviously is the astronaut. What we want to do is go to this little half circle right here. And this is going to be our adjustment layers. We want to go all the way down to threshold, okay? And what this is going to do is make our design look sort of like this. And this is going to look really ugly at first. We are going to use this threshold to separate the midtones and highlights. So in order to do that, we just need to kind of play with the levels a little bit. You don't want to lose too much detail, of course. So we want to find like a happy middle ground. I'm thinking like 99 or 100 looks pretty good. And what we want to do is we want to go ahead and unlock the background layer. So this is our BG layer, right? Our background layer. We want to just hit that little lock and unlock it, and we can name this background or shirt color even. So what we want to do is click on threshold, hold in shift, and then select BG color, and it's going to actually select all of those layers. Now what we could do is hold Option Command E, and that's going to duplicate it on a separate layer, going to really help you guys work efficiently. From here, what we could do is we can get rid of the background. There's two ways to do this. We can go up to select color range and just select the black. I don't like to do it that way though. So what I want to do is use blending options. So we're going to double left click. So left click twice on this threshold layer. It's going to bring up layer styles. We're going to go all the way down to where it says blend if gray. And we want to hold an option, and we are going to drag this little arrow tip to the right. It's going to separate the arrows, what it's doing. Make sure you hide all other layers before doing this. And as you can see, it's deleting everything, and that's exactly what we wanted. So let's go ahead and right click now and convert this to a smart object. And now it is just white, and that's exactly what we wanted. Let's repeat the same process and make sure we get some of the highlights now. So let's turn everything back on. Let's double click on threshold again. And now we want to create some highlights. So we're just going to drag this all the way to the right about, I don't know, somewhere right here. Again, you want to go to the very top layer and then hold in shift and then select the very bottom layer. You can go vice versa from bottom to top or top to bottom. To combine those layers on a separate layer, press Command Option E. And then we want to click on this layer twice again and do the same exact thing, guys. And you can do this with as many tones as you want, honestly. And then right click, convert to smart object. It's going to get rid of the background. Now you can turn on your BG shirt color layer. And as you can see, we have 2 tones now, right? And we want to make sure we label these. So this is going to be the highlight layer, which needs to go above the other layer. Now what I want to do is drag in my color palette that I found on Adobe Color. Now let's turn on highlights and let's add a color overlay to highlights. And what we could do is just select whatever color we want. This teal color is really nice. I like it. And then what I want to do is hold an option and click and drag down so it's copied over to midtones. We're going to go to that color overlay now in midtones. I really kind of like the contrast of this. So we're going to hit OK. So let's go ahead and actually group our astronaut now because we did everything we needed to do. So let's go ahead and select everything again, press Command G. And let's name this astronaut so we know exactly where he is in his own little group. This is the point where we're going to start bringing in more design assets in order to really structure this design, adding some text and all that good stuff to make this exciting. Another amazing thing about Envato is you can download unlimited amounts of fonts, and I love it. So I typed in space under fonts, and now what I'm going to do is just find one that I think will fit the vibe, I guess, of my design. And I already found a few that I really liked. I like this sci-fi bronze one. Now that I downloaded my fonts, I want to hit T on my keyboard and start typing something out. But first I want to take my foreground color and make it white. So I'm using this little arrow on the left-hand side and we're going to make it white. And then I believe this font is called sci-fi bronze. There it is. So I think we're going to name it space or something like really simple, or we can just make it a NASA design. Why not? And at the bottom I just typed in the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, but I want to separate it. So I think I'm going to do this on the second line. What I want to do now is toggle on the astronaut, and I'm going to select him and then press Command G on my keyboard in order to duplicate that entire layer, and we're just going to drag them down a little bit. If you're going to be screen printing, make sure you keep all of your separate colors on different layers because you don't want to merge them all together. It's just going to make the screen printer have a hell of a time trying to print it. But if you're using a DTG printing method, it doesn't matter. You can print full images, so it doesn't matter. And we're going to end up fixing all the little nuances. Like obviously his helmet is peeking into, NASA. That's fine. We're going to fix all that in a second. I'm not too worried about it. While he's right there, I'm going to figure out some sort of shape I can add around him. So what I want to do is go to my pen tool, so we can hit P on our keyboard to go to the pen tool. Let's just make some random shape. And I want to make this red just so it's really poppy. I think I'm going to make some triangle shape. It looks kind of like a nacho, doesn't it? We're going to drag this under the astronaut now. And I want to make sure I add a stroke instead. And we can take the fill color and just make it transparent. So now we are left with something like that. And it looks like I didn't finish my pen tool. So we do need to finish that. And you just go back to the pen tool to do that. And now it's actually a finished shape. And we can even make this line even thinner. Let's go ahead and make it like 15, whatever you want. If you're into like even numbers, you can go 14. That's completely up to you. What I want to do now is go to Illustrator and import some other design assets that I found. So we're going to paste this in place, smart object it, and then kind of figure out where we want this to sit. And then what we could do is we can mask this out. So we're going to go ahead and hold in Command, select our shape 1, and that's going to make an outline around everything, which is the custom shape that we just made with the pen tool. And we can make a layer mask on these mountains right here. And as you can see now, it is masked. What I don't like though is that the top part is not peeking through, and I wanted that. So what I want to do is just use the lasso tool and mask around this little part right here. And we can fill that with black. This looks super cool. I like the vibe of it. What I want to do is toggle on this astronaut one more time and just kind of resize him. Now what I want to do is add a solid color fill above everything. And let's make it a different color. So I guess we can use our color palette. That's why we have it. But we want to make sure we're not copying the same color as the astronaut too closely. Another thing I want to try to do is mask this astronaut. So we are going to select that same shape, that triangle shape, the nacho shape, whatever you want to call it. And we are going to mask this astronaut out with it and then select the top again and make that show through. So we're going to go ahead and edit, fill, and we're going to fill that with white. And now it's going to show back through. That's exactly what we wanted. So now the astronaut's being cut off. That looks super cool. We're gonna add some text right here on the left, so I'm not too worried about it. There is a problem, obviously. The mountains are not showing because the astronaut's cutting them off. So we're gonna delete the layer mask and kind of rework that around the astronaut. So I'm gonna repeat that same process, select that nacho shape, add a layer mask to the mountains, and then take the lasso tool and make sure I add those back. I do think that there needs to be more color contrast, so I'm gonna try to experiment with maybe like a red color. See, I think that looks really, really cool. Maybe even more of a pink. Yeah, see, this looks sick. Obviously, there's some things happening right here, like there's colors that are peeking out, and I don't like that. So what I could do is go to this layer mask again with a hard round brush and just mask out certain parts. And this is an easy way of really making sure you are adding clarity to certain parts of your main design asset. And it's as simple as that. I wanna make sure this pink line sits above the astronaut because right now it's not, and it just looks really funky. So what I could do to fix that is select both the color fill layer and the nacho shape, and we can name this nacho shape if we want. In order to duplicate that nacho shape really fast, what we could do is just hold an option and then make sure we add a clipping mask to the nacho shape. And then we can select both layers and do Option Command E, and that is going to obviously duplicate it on its own layer like we did before. So now we have just the nacho shape, and we do want to take that shape that we just duplicated and drag it above the astronaut. So we have the nacho copy above the astronaut, just like that. I made a mistake right here. What I should have done with that nacho shape was change the stroke color to that pinkish color, and then we can drag that above everything, and that way the astronaut sits below it, and then we could have still made layer masks to our astronaut, but I decided to work harder, not smarter. What I'm gonna do is go to NASA, and we're gonna use a polygonal lasso tool. And what I wanna do with this polygonal lasso tool is copy the same angle as the nacho, and I just wanna delete the bottom half of NASA off. And then we're gonna invert that layer mask by pressing Command I. Using that same layer mask, take a hard round brush, and you could delete certain parts of this text. That way it's not interfering with the astronaut. Now we could focus our attention to the bottom text. So what I'm thinking for the bottom text is we could drag that above the astronaut, or maybe keep it below and make it smaller. Yeah, I think maybe we could just keep it below. There's two nacho shapes, so you do have to make sure you cut both of them out, and then do the same thing for this top one. A little trick is if you hold in Shift, it will create a perfectly straight line. And we have a lot of negative space right here on the left. We can totally do something with that if you want to. Let's add some random coordinates right here. Pasting that in place. You got to be careful doing this because you don't want to give away people's information or anything like that, obviously, but this is obviously a public place. So we want to copy that, and we can kind of just add those in here. Another popular thing that a lot of people are doing these days is adding the actual color palette to the design. I've seen a lot of homies do this, and I kind of dig it. So I'm gonna try it out right here. So let's just make 3 circles. You could just go to the shape too and change the color that way, but I like color overlays. I've always liked them. We can name these color circles, whatever you wanna name them. It does not matter. Do something like that. That way they pop out. At the top, I'm just gonna type in join the team at NASA. I don't know. Something like that. See, I kind of like the contrast between that. Join the team at NASA. And I have these like weird circles that I found. So let's go ahead and try to use those. I want to add a color overlay to these. You know what? I like these better than that grid shape, and just blend the bottom in a little bit. I can even add some random numbers right here if I really wanted to. 1s and 0s, why not? The only problem with the circles that I just used is the color palette isn't actually accurate. So we will need to fix that. So this middle color, or what is it? The top color actually is going to be this more pink color. That looks much, much better. So if I zoom out now, you guys can see what we have going on. What we can do is group the entire design together now and just name this final design. And again, you will want to go through the colors and make sure all of them are separated properly before screen printing. But if you want to DTG print this, you are good to do that now. One other thing is, since we have a color fill here, I do want to select everything below that, group that together, and just make sure that is clipped to it. That way, when we hide the background of the BG shirt color, it's not going to show through, if that makes sense. Like if I were to unclip that, here's what happens. See, we don't want that. So anyway, that's why we did that. And I want to go ahead and mock it up on a shirt. If you guys want to buy this mock-up, you can do that on my website at charliepangus.com. I will link that in the description below. And let's add a screen overlay. That's it for this tutorial.
Make a Metallica design in Photoshop. I'm going to show you guys my design process, some time lapse in this video as well, and show you guys how I do things. I hope you enjoy it. Before we get into today's video, I want to give a huge shout out to my sponsorship over at Envato Elements. I use Envato Elements for everything. That includes fonts, stock video, music, everything you can even think think of in the creative space, they have it. Download millions of video templates, WordPress themes, photos, graphic templates, and more. Deliver better projects faster with ready-to-use graphic, web, and video templates. 10 million community members, guys, are on this platform for a reason. Use my link in the description below to get 50% off an annual subscription. You guys will not regret it. With that being said, let's get back to the video. I created some 3D text using After Effects and I imported it into Photoshop. So that part I'm not gonna go over today, but the second thing I'm doing now is just importing a moon that I found on unsplash.com. I thought this would make a great back piece for the design. Since we are working with layers, it's best to think about the design in layers. So we got the moon first, we got the 3D text on top of that, and we're just basically layering this design in order to get the design at the end that we want. And it wouldn't be a Charlie Pingus design without the filter gallery effects, which is torn edges and grain. Sometimes I use halftone pattern, but you guys see me use this effect all the time, and it's just simply to process the image to make it look more photocopied, less like just an image that I found online, right? So I'm applying these effects and adjusting the parameters in order to get the desired look. And I suggest you guys play with these a lot because they're fun and you can make any photo look really interesting just by doing this. Now I'm using color range to select all the white so I can change the moon to any color that I want without having the dark tones affect the image, and it looks something like this. And I'm going to probably go with that purple color just because I think it looks really nice, and I have this idea of throwing like a poppy orange or yellowish color on top of the moon to really make this design come together and have obviously multiple tones. Next step was finding a font to use for Master of Puppets, which I was going to add to the bottom of the design, and I wanted to go with a scratchy font, so Envato Elements was obviously the perfect choice to find the perfect font, and I did just that. I found a font that I really liked. So you're seeing me right here, just look for it, and then I'm downloading it, installing it, and actually using it in Photoshop. So it's a really straightforward process. I'm typing out Master of Puppets now using the type tool. You can just hit T on your keyboard to find that. And I want to use that font that I just downloaded from Envato Elements, of course. If you have an Envato Elements subscription, just type in Scratch and you will find it under fonts. Now it's a matter of just placing the text where I want it and kind of warping it, manipulating it in certain ways to make it look, again, the way I want it. And there's no other way to put it, honestly. It just takes a lot of playing around and practice, and you will achieve the look you're going for. But everybody has their own taste. So really you have to obviously learn how to spell too. Right here, I'm misspelling this completely, but it's okay. But yeah, just honestly take your time. Practice makes perfect. So don't try to copy me exactly because you're going to fail that way. Honestly, do what you think looks good and you're always going to succeed. If you're like me and you don't do a ton of illustration by hand, then you might want to look for stock photos to use in your designs, and that's totally fine. Now, in this design, I used what they call a public domain image. So what this is basically an old school movie poster from, let's say, anywhere from the 1950s to the 1980s, depending on the copyright on it. And it's expired, and that goes into the public domain, which allows people like me to use it. So this is completely free to use. You're allowed to use it because it is entered into the public domain. Dumbed down version is that the copyright expired and it's in the public eye now, so you can use it. So you do have to be careful doing this. You want to make sure that you know 110% that you can use it before printing it. But this is definitely one that I know is in the public domain, so I'm pretty confident using it. But that's just something to keep in mind. To cut the background out, I'm literally just using the lasso tool and the eraser tool, really keeping it simple here. I got done cutting out all the images, and now it was time to kind of manipulate the photo a little bit because I didn't want to leave it as is, obviously. So what I ended up doing was I took the skeleton's, what would it be, the right hand, and I ended up lowering it a little bit and making it look like he's holding a head. So I was definitely trying to just make it my own, and I encourage you guys to do the same thing. So I'm just doing a lot of cutting, pasting, and blending using layer masks and all that stuff. And again, using the lasso tool to just select around certain parts of the image and delete it or move it. And this is kind of just a process that gets repeated over and over again until I get the look that I'm going for. Once that was all done, all I did was added my typical torn edge and grain effect under filter gallery and gave it this like photocopy look. And I thought it looked really, really cool. So I ended up sticking with it. I did have some issues with my selection, so I'm just going through with the eraser tool now in order to clean it up. And this took way longer than it probably should have. And my recommendation for fixing this problem is just take way longer on the selection part of things. Like when you're cutting things out of the background, really take your time because it's going to make the whole design process so much easier. But in this case, I was rushing this design. Obviously, it's for a YouTube video only. I'm not actually printing this, so I don't take as long as I would normally on a real client. So anyway, that's just something to keep in mind, but enjoy the rest of this part. After tweaking the design for a little bit, I landed on this, and I ended up adding a gradient map over everything and just messed with the different gradients that are built into Photoshop along with some blending modes. And that's how I got the final look, but I wasn't quite done. I wanted to add some lightning behind everything. I found some lightning that was on a black background, which was perfect because all I had to do to blend it into my design was change the blend mode to screen, and it worked perfectly. A little bit of resizing and warping here and there, and I was able to come up with something that I was really, really happy with. Check out the final design and let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section below. And who should I In this video, I'm going to be designing streetwear like Gallery Department. If you guys don't know who they are, definitely check them out. They sell t-shirts for $250, which actually isn't that bad for a high-end streetwear brand. Some of them charge upwards of $500 to $1,000, so not too bad, I guess. But I will never spend that much on a t-shirt. I barely want to spend $30 on a t-shirt, to be honest with you guys. Anyway, I'm going to go to their website and try to mimic the style they're going for. Before I begin, I do want to say a few words because I've been doing a lot of thinking lately. And on this channel, I really see it going in the direction of like teaching you guys all sorts of things about content creation, such as photography, videography, and obviously I'll still do graphic design on this channel. But as far as just doing merch design, I definitely want to broaden my horizons. I want to do other things. I think just doing merch design is holding this channel back because it is such a specific niche. So what I want to do is upload all of my merch design, if not most of it, to Merch Design Academy. So if you guys want more t-shirt design tutorials and different merch design videos, definitely head over to Merch Design Academy, linked in the description below. And I just uploaded a brand new Adobe Illustrator t-shirt design tutorial for you guys, so you don't want to miss it. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started with the video. All right, so I'm on Gallery Department's website, and I really don't see anything too crazy. A lot of it's pretty simple stuff, and I really like that. So I'm going to definitely try to stick with this style. Like for example, this one right here, we could do something like that. That one's kind of cool with the flames. I really like this brain with the wings. I might try something like that. This looks like clip art, so I don't think it's going to be that hard to pull that off. Even this cream tee right here is pretty cool with the back. It's interesting how they used black ink on the front pocket print, and then on the back they used an orange ink. That's very interesting. And these streetwear brands all use the same fonts, by the way. It's either Futura, Helvetica, there's a couple other ones too, but most of them use Helvetica, believe it or not. I think Off-White uses Helvetica as well. Anyway, let's go ahead and try to do something with this brain. I'm gonna go to this website called Public Domain Vectors. These are completely free to use, by the way, so if you guys wanna check them out. Let me see if I can find a brain that's kind of similar. You know what, this one actually looks similar as far as like the style goes. So I'm gonna download that one. The only thing is we don't have wings. So I'm gonna type in wings as well. Bam, so we already have like different resources that we're gonna use. I feel like this is like too easy though, but I don't know what it is about me, but like I'll stop on the first page. It's like, dude, there's like 5-10 pages sometimes, so. All right, let's go to Photoshop, open up a new document. So I'm gonna go new file, I'm gonna go to saved and I have a merch design template. It's 15 inches by 18 inches, 300 DPI. All right, so I have that document. I do wanna invert the background because I wanna work on lighter color shirts. For this one, I'm just gonna use gallery department's name. So I wanna make sure my foreground and background color are default. So I'm just gonna press D on my keyboard. And what that's going to do is it's gonna take the foreground color and make it black, and then take the background color and make it white. That's pretty much it. And now we have default color. So when I go to type out some text, the foreground color is black, so my text is going to be black, which obviously we can change later on, not a huge deal. And I think what I wanna do too is probably grab a mock-up. Yeah, let's go and grab some mock-ups. So let me go to my asset folder real quick. If you guys don't have an asset folder, that's a pro tip. Make an asset folder that you can, like basically all of your design resources, add those to a folder and save them somewhere. Trust me, it's gonna make your life way easier. I'm gonna go grab these vectors real quick and just import them and see what we can do with them. So I'm gonna make a group with these and just name it, let's say, I don't know, vectors or SVGs. There we go, because that's what they are. And I guess what we could do is just kind of pick one. I think I wanna work with the brain first. So let's go ahead and take the brain by itself and just resize it, make it much bigger. And let's just cut this wing off. I know it's hard to see what I'm doing, but trust me, I'm cutting it off. I don't know how I want this to look yet. Maybe like this. So I'm adding a layer mask and I just want to paint black to delete things, delete everything I don't want. So basically anything inside of the wing I want to delete because we want to show the wing, obviously, right? So you want to get rid of that. That was one wing, and I'm going to take my lasso tool and just cut the other wing off the suit, and we could delete the suit. We don't need it anymore. And I think with this one, I'm going to make it seem like it's kind of behind a little bit, maybe. The perspective's off on these wings, but I mean, I don't really care. I'm gonna press Command T on my keyboard. You can also do Control T if you're on a PC. And I'm just going to add a slight warp to this to make it look like it's kind of, you know, arcing, or not arcing, but it's folding almost over. I don't know. And then again, I'm gonna do the same thing, add a layer mask and just delete. And we can always like add stuff back if we paint white, remember that. Black deletes, white adds. So don't stress if you're like deleting things that you didn't mean to delete. So if you press X on your keyboard, it will switch your foreground and background color. So I'm just switching that around real quick. So on the first wing, I'm adding a layer mask and just painting with black, and then just kind of fine tuning it, I guess you can say. I actually like this a lot. So I'm gonna merge these together. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Let's go ahead and just type out gallery. And as you can see, it's like the same font as gallery department. So I'm gonna go condensed black with that. So Helvetica New condensed black is what I'm using. And I'm just gonna do something like that. And we're done, that's it, that's the video. I'm just kidding, but no, but in all honesty, guys, it's not always about getting this like crazy design put together so you can throw it on a shirt, right? Sometimes it's more about like the simplicity and how you can decorate the garment to look really good. So yeah, anyway, yes. So let's keep that as one of the pocket prints or one of the prints. Instead of Hollywood, California, I'm just going to do Nashville, because that's where I'm living right now. What I wanna do is go back to their website, because they have a specific way of like, oh, they flipped it on theirs. Is that the same brain? Nah, it can't be. Oh, they just let it all hang out. So okay, so they did resize the other text. So maybe I'll make this condensed bold and just resize it a little bit. And even the spacing, you know, that's something you should pay attention to. My spacing is pretty good. I think it needs a little bit more room to breathe. I'm gonna change my mock-up's color to more of that cream color. And I'm gonna do that for both the back and the front. Way better looking. Okay, now I'm gonna copy this. And I think I want the brain on the front of the mock. So let's do that real fast. Yes, and it needs to be kind of big too. That's cool, yes. All right, now let's take the back text and do that too. Did I spell Nashville right? This looks pretty cool. I wanna experiment though. I wanna like make the front maybe an orange print instead. So I'm gonna go back to that graphic and let's change it to more of an orange color. I'm just really playing with these colors because I don't know, sometimes doing stuff that's just black and white gets boring. So let's try to add some more flavor to this. Let's see what that looks like. See, I like that. I think that looks pretty cool. Maybe even experiment with the shirt color some more. Huh, I don't know. That's a hard one. I'm gonna stick with the cream color and the orange print. I think it looks cool. And I think it would sell. So we're gonna go ahead and stick with that. Let me go ahead and make a board for all of the like designs that we're coming up with today. I thought it'd be a good idea to do a long sleeve and then put that gallery department print on the pocket itself. So I'm gonna go ahead and try that out real fast. I don't know, I just feel like it's gonna look really good. So, and this needs to be a lot smaller. And by the way, I'm not actually printing this, guys. This is just a concept, all right? I'm not gonna print this and make profit off of it because it's not my right to do that. This is literally just for fun, all right? And obviously for educational purposes, so don't worry, not printing it. Anyway, I was thinking for the pocket, what if it was like crooked on purpose, kind of? So maybe do something like that. Maybe not. Maybe don't do that. Let's take these flames and see if we could do something fun with them. I'm gonna copy these and then just paste them on the sleeves. If I do Command T, I can right click warp and we could just kind of warp them around the cuff here, whatever you want to call this. So maybe I can add a layer mask, possibly? Let's add a layer mask. So let's go copy that one right there. So as you can see, it's already like looking like it belongs there. From here, I could just take the lasso tool and make a selection around the parts that I want to delete. And then you just want to make sure you select black so it deletes, not adds. And as you can see, now it looks like it actually belongs there, which is really cool. I'm gonna duplicate this and flip it. So I'm doing Command J. You can also do Control J if you're on a PC. And I'm just going to right click and flip that. And let's put this on the other side now. And we can also just retilt it because it doesn't match up perfectly, which is okay. One thing I was thinking too is like, you see the gradients, like how it goes from orange to yellow. What if I copied that on gallery department? I have gallery department right here, so I'm just gonna title that layer so I know exactly where it is. And what I wanna do is add a gradient fill above this. So I'm just gonna go up to maybe just gradient actually. And then we can add that as a clipping mask. So if you hold an option and hover in between gallery department's layer and the gradient fill layer, you can just create a clipping mask. You can also right click on this layer and create a clipping mask that way. And if you're on a PC, you can hold an Alt, I believe it is, or yeah, it's Alt. So you can also do it that way. And it's the same thing. So now that we have that gradient fill, what I could do is click on it. I'm gonna make 3 points essentially. So one's gonna go at the bottom, one's gonna go in the mid, and one's gonna go at the top. And then at the very top, we're obviously going to have that yellow color. What I ended up doing is taking out the midtone and just keeping the shadow and highlights. And I had to mess with them quite a bit. So for the orange color, I did 53 on the location. And for the highlights, I did 55 and it ended up looking like this. And I think that looks pretty cool. So I'm gonna press OK on it. And that's pretty much it right there. Charlie is back and we're diving right into the design process. Today, I'm gonna be using Envato elements to create a 3D t-shirt design. Essentially, it could be for a poster, a t-shirt, basically whatever you want, but I'm going to be using these 3D renders on Envato to kind of just compose something, and we're even going to use Adobe Illustrator to create sort of like a frame for this design that I have in my mind. On Envato Elements, once you sign up, you'll see this dashboard. And by the way, if you guys want to sign up to Envato Elements, you could get 50% off an annual subscription by using my affiliate link in the description below. And when you sign up, it of course helps me out. I get a little bit of a profit from that, which helps the channel grow. So it's a kind of a win-win for both of us. Anyway, if you do sign up, you're gonna see this dashboard. On the very top, you're gonna see a search bar. And what I like to do is go all the way to the bottom where 3D is. And then I'm just gonna type in robot because I already kind of know what asset I wanna use because I've used this one before and I love it so much. So it's gonna be this one right here. If you scroll down, like how many rows is this? 1, 2, 7, 8, 9, it's 9 rows down. You're gonna see this robot. It's titled Robot LEDI001, and you can use the exact same one. And then I'm just going to click this big red button that says View 3:6 Render. By clicking that, we can rotate this object in 3D space and pick an angle that we really like. I like this angle right here, maybe even going down a little bit more. And the only thing I really need right now is a nice font. So let's go ahead and go to this little drop-down menu again, and then click on fonts. And I'm just gonna type in futuristic. I really like this font called Air Wars, so we're gonna go ahead and download that one. And then I might try to find one more font just so we have options here. I like this enigmatic font as well, so I'm gonna download that one. I like this anti-design one too, so we're gonna download that one. See, now I'm going down the rabbit hole that we always talk about here. Like every single time I look at fonts, I can't just download one, I have to keep going, and that's my issue with them because they're so fun. All right, so we have zip files for everything. I'm gonna open up my font book since I'm on a Mac. There's something called font books, and I can just drag this into my font library there. and I could do the same thing for all the downloads. So let's take the other ones as well. While we're at it, we can also unzip these robots and use them as well. So we can open these up in Photoshop just so we have them kind of ready to go. I'm gonna jump into Adobe Illustrator real fast and let's make some sort of frame that we can use for our design. So I'm gonna do 8.5 by 11, that's fine. And let's start messing with some shapes here. So the robot, I wanna be on the left-hand side. So maybe we'll have a box on the left-hand side and then a smaller box on the right-hand side. So let's go ahead and try, what I wanna do is duplicate this and then fill this with black. Let's try this. Send that to the back. And then when I do this when I do that little fold right here, it's gonna have that black border. And I think that looks pretty cool. So we're gonna try to keep that. See what happens, because sometimes you just have to try things and hope for the best. I mean, it doesn't always work out, but you know, you never know until you try. So I'm just gonna delete that box on the right because I didn't like it. To me, this is already feeling a little bit more balanced. So what I wanna do is select everything and just add a slightly thicker stroke to this so it's more dominant. See, something like this looks pretty cool, and I like how thick the lines are. Let's go ahead and copy it. So I'm gonna select it and just do Command C. Now I can just press Command N on my keyboard, and let's go ahead and go to inches. And I think I wanna make this like 15 by, or maybe 16 by 18. Or 14 by 18, let's say. So 14 by 18, 300 resolution, of course. And we wanna make sure our color mode is set to working RGB, sRGB. Background contents, we want this to be on a white tee. So I'm gonna keep that white and then press OK. And I can just do Shift Command V and then paste this as a smart object. I'm just gonna take one of these robots. I'm gonna figure out this angle first. I'm gonna go ahead and do this. I'm gonna get rid of the shadows, get rid of the background, and then I'm just gonna do Command A and then Shift Command C to copy that and Shift Command V to paste it. And then we could just resize it like this. So now we have a big ass robot and we just need some text. And then maybe we can add some like cool effects, like some texture stippling effect to the robot. But the one thing I am noticing right now is that that right hand, or I guess it would be the left hand, is kind of getting lost with the black background, and that's completely normal. We can fix that, and I'm gonna show you how in a second. But so yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. So I'm gonna make a selection around the robot, and then what I wanna do is go up to filter. We're gonna go to, not filter, select, modify, expand. I'm gonna expand this by like 15. So we have like a nice little border. If I zoom in, you can see what I'm doing. And then from here, I could do shift and backspace and just fill this with white, like that. And that looks really cool. And then we can even add an outer glow now. We want the opacity to be all the way up, and we wanna make sure the size is obviously bigger. We just wanna add a subtle glow, nothing too crazy. This looks pretty cool, and I'm not gonna keep it like that. We're gonna add some sort of stippling effect to it, so it is going to change. I just realized I was covering my layers palette up. So let me go over that again. So I have the robot on top, and then I have a copy of that robot on at the bottom with a white color fill basically, and then I have an outer glow. That's pretty much all I've done so far. And then I have that border that we made in Adobe Illustrator. So that's where we're at, and we're gonna start adding effects slowly, but I wanna start playing with some colors now and see if we can get this looking pretty cool. So what I wanna do is just take my magic wand and delete that white box real quick, and we have something that looks like this that's transparent. We can even just like, instead of deleting it, we could literally just cut it and then paste it back in place and then keep a copy of it in case we need it, because you never know, we might wanna change the color later on. And then from here, we can just literally change the color of this box to any color we want. So we can go like that navy color, for example, and just kind of play with these different colors. Like, I really like color picking from my elements that I'm using. So maybe we can use one of these black colors, some sort of black gunmetal color. And then from here, we could just, you know, type out something. So let's go ahead and let's try Air Wars real quick. This font works in my opinion. I like it. I'm working on a brand right now, and I'm not gonna say too much about it, but it's called 91 Rebels. If you follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen a little bit of me kind of teasing it in a way. Let's go ahead and do 91 Rebels. And then for this font color, I'm just gonna add a color overlay really quick. I know that I'm doing this kind of messy. From here, I just wanna double click on the thumbnail, and let's change the foreground color to that yellow color and start introducing it a little bit and see what that looks like. So maybe we'll do something like that. And then on the top, we can add anti-norm, which is one of the quotes I'm gonna be using. Let's go ahead and do that secondary font, which is anti-design. I don't like that right there. So we're gonna go ahead and just keep 91 right there. On the top left, maybe I'll do anti-norm, and then we can left align this and maybe put this right here. In the middle of me looking for yet another font, I found another one that I liked, and it's called Neo Cyber. And I just thought it looked cool, so I'm gonna look at it real quick. I think it needs like one more like element. So I'm gonna take like a circle in Illustrator, and do some cutouts with it. I'm kind of all over the place right now. I know I'm a little rusty, so I'm trying my best. But yeah, you know, it's fun either way. You got to try things to see what you like and what you don't like. All right, I'm gonna knock out this using the shape builder tool. Let's copy these. This might actually be cool on the left-hand side now that I look at it. Maybe in that corner, and then we can send that behind. I have some weird shit going on. I'm gonna just go ahead and skew this 91. It needs something, so let's skew it and see if we can salvage this. This looks all right. I'm not like in love with it, but I'm also not mad at it, so we'll be all right. I might just like kind of go with the flow. Maybe we keep it, you know? Maybe it's like one of those like happy mistakes that we didn't mean to make, but ended up actually working. See, I don't know, that looks kind of cool. Let's take a duplicate copy of this robot and let's go filter, blur, motion blur, and maybe add a blur going down. So maybe this can be a part of the stipple effect that we add. Bottom left needs work. I don't like the text on the bottom left, so we need to figure out where that needs to sit. See, sometimes I like to warp my text on purpose. You go from like a default font to something that's a lot more like organic, and it just feels, you know, new. I might end up doing the same thing to 91 Rebels, just kind of warping it a little bit. And then let's take one that's like a stroke. I have a bunch of these globes that I want to try out too, because I feel like that might help a little bit. But maybe we could put one on this bottom left-hand side. I'm gonna try something. I'm gonna cut this left side off, repaste that in place, and then let's do a different color. So on the outside, I'll probably do that blue color. So it'll kind of be the inverse of everything. This is looking pretty good so far. I don't mind it. Maybe I could just add some circles to the right side instead. We'll change the fill to 0, and then maybe I could just add a stroke with that color palette that we're using, and that might even look cool. That might do the job. And sometimes this is literally all you need to do. Just go to a camera raw filter and adjust this robot a little bit to bring out some details. And I'm just taking a step back a little bit, working on the robot a little bit more. And yeah, I think this is gonna do it some good. We can saturate this robot a little bit more, add some sharpening, which is always gonna help it, and then even calibrate it a little bit to change the color dynamic. We will have to change the color of everything now because it's a different saturation level. So I'm gonna copy this color code and apply it to everything. I can add a color overlay. One thing I can do is maybe add like a little arrow, something like that, and this can be a lot smaller too. And then this triangle can be a yellow color instead. And then the circle at the bottom also needs to be that yellow color. I'm gonna go to camera raw again and get rid of the aqua color. I don't like it. It needs to get the hell out of here. It's not invited to the party. So let's go to the hue and go to aquas, and you can see that I'm affecting that aqua color now. And I think what I want to do is go to saturation and just literally get rid of it all the way. And then maybe even take the hue of it and go to the right with it. Let's check the actual color of it now. I think it's like more of a blue. Now let's go ahead and take everything, go copy merge, and then paste that on its own layer. And then I want to press D on my keyboard to make my foreground black and my background white. And then from here we can go up to filter, go to filter gallery, and then we could just work some magic. I wanna add this like cool stipple effect to everything. This is looking so sick already. I'm not even gonna lie, I'm happy with this. I might just end up doing a custom color palette here and try to rework this. So let's do 2 points. I'll do one yellow. We'll kind of customize the colors here. We could do diamond. Let's go linear though. I'm pretty happy with the way this is looking, but the one thing I do wanna try is I'm gonna try to mask out this 91 real quick and like add some of that color in there as well, because I think it would look cool. And then after that, I think we're done, honestly. I don't see myself wanting to like overwork this design any further. Just really roughly selecting around this, right? Like I don't want to spend too much time with it. Really only need the bottom. And then from here, I can select the inside because we don't really need that to be affected. Delete that out and then delete this part out as well. Teal and orange is like kind of a classic color combo. So I'm like, do I want this to be more of like a teal and orange color combo? That's sick. That's actually really cool. I like the red instead. Let's go with this. Especially with like 4th of July coming around the corner, like this actually kind of works for 4th of July. This looks super cool, but the one thing I want to add to it is a gradient around these honeycombs because I feel like it's kind of missing something right there. But that's like the only thing I would honestly change about it. That looks cool. And then we'll do it for this too. Just a little touch of that red color in these little areas would honestly go a long way. Try one of these textures out. This is not my texture pack, but if you guys want to download my textures, you can do that in the link in the description below. It's just on my website.